Welcome to part 1 of the Futurefonic Complete Edition Masterclass. Over the course of 7 classes, we've accumulated more than 21 hours of education from household names in the psychedelic trance and progressive world.
In this video, we've refined the footage and sorted the classes into their individual segments. We'll be looking at kick and bass, percussion, synths, sound effects, arrangement and composition, mixing and mastering, as well as some industry insight from seasoned producers who've carved out their own paths to successful music careers. Our first host is Nate Raubenheimer, aka Protoculture, a veteran of the dance music world. Since first releasing with the legendary Nano Records in 2003, Nate's slick sound earned him global recognition, which took him to every corner of the international circuit. His style migrated over time to the realms of euphoric trance, and he's now signed to one of the world's biggest labels, Armada Music.
Our second host, Marko Radovanovic, aka Eclip, has been straddling the progressive and psychedelic world since 2010, and his deep atmospheric sound is in high demand from continent to continent. In the last 5 years has seen him headline pretty much every party and festival worth playing. Finally, we have selected the best from our class with Nadav Bonin, famous for his projects X-Noise, Major 7 and 7 Monkeys. As you'll see in this video, Bonin takes a cutting-edge approach to almost every aspect of his production, and you don't have to listen to his music for long to see that his studio magic has put him way ahead of the game. All Futurefonic classes are moderated by myself, Alex Story, a professional music composer, producer, and teacher who co-founded psytrance act Sonic Species,
And me, Sam Morgan, producer, teacher, and Ableton specialist. We hope you enjoy this wealth of production expertise that we are so happy to share with you.
We recommend taking notes as there's a lot to absorb over the entirety of the Futurefonic Complete Edition Masterclass. Have fun! Let's say hi to our amazing host for today, Mr. Nate Protoculture.
Hey guys.
Hey, Nate, how's it going?
All good, man. Cool.
So how's the year been going for you? Your albums just came out like 2nd of May.
Well, the new album I've been working on for about 2 years now. So it just came out a month ago, and it's doing pretty well. I think it's kind of like the first album that I've done that's solely outside of the psytrance scene. Like the last one was kind of a crossover thing for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been good. You know, like I've been enjoying doing like different stuff. There's a couple of commercial tunes on there which I'm sure a lot of people won't be into, but you know, it's been fun doing that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, totally.
And it's doing well. So I'm pretty happy with the results so far. Yeah, I've been doing a lot more club gigs and. As opposed to outdoor festivals. Like, I'm still doing a few festivals like Tomorrowland this year, but I also got out of the whole doing live thing. You know, the psytrance thing's always about doing live, and I've really gotten into DJing over the last couple of years, and that's been like, quite a big part of my life is actually DJing now, and it brings with it a whole bunch of different things. You know, I spend a lot of time editing tracks and doing mashups and remixes and things now as well. So
I suppose DJing kind of almost. I always thought it sort of kept you on your feet a little bit more. When you're DJing, you have to actually stay on top of beat matching and stuff like that, as opposed to.
Well, I just find it a lot more organic. It's a lot more exciting, you know. Like I like take Buenos Aires for example. I was on tour there recently. They are really into really hard music, you know. And you can't just go there and do a live show; it'll fall to pieces, you know. So yeah, I like being more dynamic. That I can get to a show and play whatever I want. You know, I can even drop 1 or 2 psytrance tunes in the set if I want to, or you know, whereas live stuff you're kind of stuck to doing your own stuff, which I'm not crazy about that, but
yeah, totally. I always thought DJing was more fun anyway, and you know, if someone sends you a track at the last minute, you know, you can play it, and you're not limited to just playing your own music.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, you have gone on a huge musical journey. Not a lot of. I can't think of many psytrance artists which have sort of migrated and made a name for themselves in another scene. So what is it about psytrance that you'll always kind of value and maybe even miss a little bit and keep as an element in your music? And what is it about uplifting trance that made you want to change your game and move into that field?
But to be honest with you, like I never really found much of a difference between like the commercial trance scene and psytrance. I mean, you look back, it all comes from the same place. I mean,
Yeah,
guys like Paul Oakenfold were playing parties in Goa
yeah.
back in the day, and it was all the same thing. So I think they've definitely split. It's just I find that I always loved the production of the Cytron stuff, and I still do. I still think I use a lot of those tricks and stuff that I do today.
Hmm.
The thing for me was, I've always been pretty much based in melodic stuff, and when I moved over to doing the more regular trance stuff, I had a lot of freedom
Hmm.
to kind of really break rules and do whatever the hell you wanted to do. They're a lot more accepting there just because it is a commercial scene, so there aren't as many rules as there are in the Psytrance scene, which was appealing to me as an artist. Like I'd done Psytrance for what 9-10 years or something,
Yeah.
and felt it was time to start doing something different, to experiment with something else. So.
Hey Marco, are you there?
Hello
Okay.
everyone, and here I am.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so how are you doing today, Marco? How's things
Yeah.
for you?
pretty good, yeah. All good. Set up, waiting for the class. This
Good
year
ones.
I played Ozora. I played in Nepal last year. I played
Wow.
Boom. I will play the next year the Boom again. I
Wow.
play Antares. I played Sun Festival the first year. It was really really awesome. Yeah, Ozora was for sure was a kind of something special.
Yeah.
As you could, as I could.
Imagine.
Many gigs was really impressive, like Mexico first time, and
Yeah.
a lot of them are just coming, like Panama, Brazil, Universo Paralelo, and
Yeah.
many good ones. Yeah.
So you're a
for
rock star now, huh?
Ah, nah. I'm a psy star. If something like that even exists. Yeah.
So I mean, Ozora must have been like off the hook. I mean, we've seen videos, but to play it must have been crazy.
But it was really good, like so many people, and
So many
like
people.
had a feeling that Psytrance is coming on the mainstream or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crowded and special. Ozora is for sure really special.
Yeah. Was that your biggest gig to date?
Like Boom. Maybe this year, but last year I played Boom and I had really great time, playing the Boom because I played in front of 35,000
Wow.
people. It
Oh my
was
god.
really amazing. And Boom Festival for me, it's the best
Yeah.
one, and all others are really many levels down. But Boom is something really
Boom's-
different, really
Boom's
special.
super special. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also played it, and it was
Yeah,
just,
Boom Festival in Portugal, and I will have a opportunity to play one more time next year, which is such a big honor, for
Mm.
me to play two Boom in a row because not many artists did it.
Yeah.
And for me,
Sure.
it's really good. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
we had a great time with Arthur and the whole crew from Boom on the Ozora. So
yeah, definitely.
Nice.
In
yeah,
fact, I know it can get a bit rowdy backstage there, but, especially when you find the free beer supply. Oh, the free beer supply.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
cool.
always doing like on the multiple tracks because if you start a track, and 5 days listening on one track, you will get lost, for sure. You need to wash your ears, as I like to say, like to start something different, and then when you
Uh-huh.
come back, you can hear much more clear, what you should change or what parts are boring or how to mix it better or whatever. We really, nobody of us from psytrance scenes, they don't have enough money, to get a really professional studio, and everything, or even to pay some engineer.
Yeah.
And this is the problem because you are a musician, you are a audio engineer, you are a mixer, you are a mastering engineer, you do everything, so you really get lost. And
Yeah.
recently I found out some methodologies that can help, you know, to like in the morning do your creative job, on the afternoon you should do the all the things like promotion, mixing, and
Yeah.
fixing the things. Yeah.
Our host for today, Nadav Bonin. Can you hear us, Nadav?
What's up, guys? Good.
So we're super excited to be with you today, Nadav, because well, we always try to choose producers who kind of stick out from the pack a little bit, try different ideas. You know, listen to all the production that you've done recently and over the last few years. It sounds like you're always trying to try new things and not be afraid to try new things. And so we're gonna make sure it's central to the theme of today to inspire you guys to also try new stuff, right, like Burnin has.
Lately, this year, I just like work a lot on tracks.
Yeah,
That's why I had so many releases this year.
Great.
And
wicked.
yeah, it's kind of like inspiring when you have a good environment.
Hmm.
It's very inspiring to do a lot of music. And I know what it means to gig and then go and after that in the morning to work in the studio. It doesn't work so much, you know.
Mm.
So you know how
Yeah.
you feel with your ears after a gig. You know, you're kind of like
Mm.
stuck and you're tired, and
Yeah.
so and we're finishing the track.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually so nice to get hooked together and even to play together because we are both having our own opinion about music, and we kind of like because we don't play a lot together lately.
Mhm.
When we meet together, it's kind of exciting for me and for him.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it very much. This situation. And about the music, I know him. He's like me, you know. When he's doing music, he's like me in a way. When you're doing
Hmm.
music together for over 10 years, then you sound together. It's like I can give you another example, like Sub Six guys, the
Yeah.
brothers. You never know who did the track, you know.
So one thing we were like saw recently is that you're about to bring out an X Noise EP where you've actually taken tracks from relatively unknown upcoming producers, and you also need to help with the mix a little bit as well.
Well, yeah, that's a project that I'm doing by myself a lot lately.
Okay.
I found it very exciting. I don't know because I like to I'm giving a chance to any producer to remix X Noise, you know, as a way in to do things in X Noise.
Hmm.
I like to have new original things, new original remix to X Noise in a way. So
Hmm.
so it will become exciting. So I'm using that. I'm giving to producers chances to do that. We started that already like 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
And some people say from the scene, you know, hey, why you giving this kid to do a remix? Who is this guy? You know, blah 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 blah. I don't care about this, cause as long as I'm touching the track in the end, fixing it,
Hmm.
make it sound really good, then I think it could be a really great result. That's my
Yeah.
point of view. For the point of view of the producer is trying to make his best job because he just got an X Noise track and he want to remix it the best he can do. So he will
Hmm.
sit on it. He will take the 100% of it, 100%, and get a good result. Now the sound, you know, not a lot of not a lot of starting producer can have a good sound, but then I just like tell them to bounce the tracks to 12 parts, 12 tracks. Let's say kick, bass, open hi-hat, and snare, the leads, the FX, and then I mix it for them.
Hmm.
And also I edit them for them if I see a problem in the edit.
Hmm.
And by that it becomes a great result, an original result.
Yeah.
The last thing I did was 3 tracks in that gonna be released in Omega. Eyal from Omega heard the tracks and said, oh, I'm gonna release it. So they got a chance now to break through with the remix to
Yeah.
X Noise in a very good
That's
label.
That's awesome.
that's amazing because like I think especially new producers have ideas which haven't been totally formed yet, and they'll sort of take more chances and do more weird stuff. Like when bands and producers first start, they have all these weird ideas. So it's actually a really good time
The best time.
to
The
yeah,
best time. The best time. Yeah, we
before they
know
sound
that
like
because
everyone else.
we're already working like that. But the best time when you have the best ideas, but you don't have the sound. So
Yeah.
sad, is it? I remember myself. I had so original things to put in the music when I started, but my sound wasn't good enough,
Yeah.
and it just went away, run away.
Mhm.
Yeah, you take this talent and you push it inside.
Cool. So, where were we? Kick and bass. Okay. This track so far, I often commit the kick to audio once I'm happy with it. I do pretty much make a new kick for every single track that I do. I'll show you how now. Like I've got two pieces of software that I tend to use a lot. One I used to use more, and I've kind of switched over to the other one now recently. Like Metrum from Vengeance, really
Mhm.
good for the sort of sample side of things.
Is
You
this
have
something you've always done?
yeah,
Making your kicks?
back in the day when I was doing more size stuff, I didn't mess around with the kicks all that much. It was just a case of having a bunch of samples that I used to make them sometimes, but these days pretty much it's kick from the ground up every time I do a tune. I might use elements from old kicks that I've done before, like maybe just pull a click out of an old kick or something, but
Mhm.
the general body of the kick I do pretty much every time from scratch.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so
So,
Metrum.
so yeah, this one you have a synthesized section here that you can kind of build a kick with, and then you have three sample oscillators that you can load your own samples into and use them as clicks or just bodies of the kick,
Okay,
and you
so
can
that
EQ them
first
into.
kind of channel is a synthesized oscillator.
Yeah, yeah. You
Okay.
you can control the pitch of basically it's basically just a sine wave that you can see how the more you pitch up, the denser the wave gets there.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome.
Um, what I'm actually doing is using this one though. I did some beta testing for them, and I was really impressed with this Nicky Romero kick plugin from Sonic Academy.
Uh-huh.
And the beauty of this one is that it's essentially the same thing. You've only got one sort of sample oscillator built in there
Yep.
for the attack of the kick.
Mhm.
But I really like the envelopes in this one because you've got them quantized to keys. So if we just go and have a look at what key we're working in, we're currently in E flat. I don't think this one will do flat, but it'll get close enough. You can just move it down to E so that you can tune your kick. Let's try it, put it around there somewhere.
So you're
So you'll,
actually tuning the sub of the kick
yeah,
to be the
you'll
same as the
see. Like
bass line.
actually, the best way to illustrate it is, I mean, that's what it sounds like now. We can go up, like if you can put it all the way up into the top E. You see, that's where it's finishing off. Like the actual sine wave part of it is finishing off in an E.
Amazing.
So yeah, you can tune your kicks like that, and obviously play with the pitch of it. Like the more sort of high energy stuff you have in the beginning, you'll get
Yeah.
like a harder sound. And then you got various controls which are you can sort of shape the sound with. You can like drive, which I don't tend to use that too much.
Uh-huh.
So the volume of the click, you can change out clicks. That's pretty cool.
So is that going through little samples there?
Yeah, those are just AIF files that came with it. You can actually load up any sound you want.
And you use that as a click for your kick.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You've got a click envelope down here, which you can, like, especially if you got lengthier kicks. I mean, if you take something like let's go, these house kicks are generally See that one's quite a long-ish sample, and you can edit it down to just a little tiny piece of it or whatever. Yeah, and then you've got different things like gating. You can just have like short little versions of it. This length dial is handy because this will change the length of all the envelopes.
Okay.
And it'll give you quite a different sound.
So much control.
Yeah, it's great, and it's really quick and easy to well, I like how it's just landed on 606 there. It's really quick and easy to just shape it, and it's versatile as well. Like whilst you're busy working, I often find if I change key or if I change a bass sound or something, sometimes the kick doesn't really fit anymore.
Okay.
But this way you can kind of remedy that quite quickly just by changing the tune of the kick slightly and messing around with it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, that's the kick down.
So
we'll
any processing that you do on that, or?
Just really basic compression. I don't mess around with the kick that much. It'll be I use this Fab Filter one a lot.
So the Pro
It's
Suite.
pretty light, like around about 2.5 is actually fine. This one's pretty cool because you can. I'll leave a little bit of the attack in, but you can sort of get like a visual representation. So, actually, what channel are we on?
Why the bit of attack?
It just lets through a little bit of that click in the beginning.
Okay.
It takes a few milliseconds for the compressor to kick, and it doesn't flatten the kick off completely then and lose all the energy. I like to have a little bit of the dynamics in there.
Okay.
So we'll just quickly put a pattern in there. You can see exactly what the compressor's doing. So yeah, you can see like how much it's actually pulling out. It's really not a lot. It's just enough to kind of keep it under control.
It's great that you can actually see it like that.
Otherwise you're going to end up with something like this, and you can like all the punch is gone. So you don't want that. You want to bring it up and just let most of it go through. So as far as EQ is concerned, it really, a lot of guys ask me about settings, like, what frequency is this, what frequency is that. It really isn't like an exact science. It depends on the track and what you're trying to do. I find my kicks, I like to style them that they kind of sit underneath everything. So they're not like really punchy. They're mostly just a sub and sort of like a treble click in the beginning. So I'll often find like, boosting around 80 hertz kind of helps. It gives you that thump. Anything around like 120 is going to give you punch, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I actually sometimes even end up taking out stuff at about 200.
Yeah, because I was thinking that when I heard the track Annapurna, it's like the kick is kind of, it's weird. It's like it's underneath the bass and it's on top of the bass, and it's still working with the bass, but it's not. It doesn't have that pop pop pop.
Yeah, no, I find we were talking about it earlier as well. And I find it actually changes the groove of the track quite a bit when you have a kick like that is just. It's just thud, like there's no like real smacking in your chest. All the energy is like you feel it in your feet and not in your chest, rather than having all that punch in it. I've seen stuff at 140 with kicks like this as well, and it also just kind of it makes it run more. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not so like staccato. It just kind of feels more smooth when you do a kick like this. So yeah, I mean you can hear this is the original kick. It's almost kind of like it sounds like a basketball being bounced around. That's kind of how I relate the kicks to. Okay, so we got our kick down. Now, I always try and approach the kick and the bass as a single entity. So you want to try and firstly, okay, we'll look at the bass line now. I always have around 3 channels, maybe more, 4 channels of bassline. One is going to be your grounding, your sub bass, which is going to be carrying the whole track, which is going to be this one, yeah. it. Now it's not only sub that, but it's definitely the element in the bass line that's gonna hold everything together. It's essentially mono, and we can have a look at EQ. Very simple EQ, just a little bit of sub down there. Again, I pulled out some of the punch, and that was just to bring out the clicks slightly, and there's a little bit of a low cut. Compression. This thing's a really cool little distortion plugin. It's quite subtle. Just adds a few harmonics, just dirties it up a little bit. And then, yeah, I cheat when I sidechain. So I like this plugin because it's basically just an envelope generator that will sidechain the stuff automatically for you.
Multi-band.
If anybody's, I mean, it depends what DAW you're in. Some of them are a little bit easier to do sidechaining. Some of them are a pain, like in Cubase. I just find this plugin's really great for saving time. Plus, you have this mode that you can go into where you just split the frequencies. So I'm going to bring this down now. You'll notice like the notes here. I've got notes on the kick as well. If I wanted those to come through, you actually have a low sidechain and a high sidechain. So now everything above 1000 hertz is going to be controlled by this sidechain here. So we can actually take that up, and when you play it back now, you can hear all the clicks are coming through, but the low side, it's still pulling out the subs on the kick there. So I mean, you can kind of, if I take this up, you'll see it working. You can hear the bass is kind of galloping, but it's still playing the clicks on top. And that's pretty handy for when you're doing pads and you don't want them to cut out completely from the sidechain. You just want the top end to come through. Very handy for that, which is my first mid-bass part, which is a silent channel. We'll just take a listen to that first. It's really kind of simple square wave kind of bass. And it's really designed to complement the first one. So we'll play them both together now. So what's going on with this one? Okay, sidechain again. There's a little bit more EQ pulling it up than the other one. And I've put in like a little bit of a boost at 1K just to kind of pop it out of the mix there. The big part with this is this effect that I'm running on it, yeah, and this is something I do a lot. You'll see it later on in everything I do. This stereo delay from Cubase. Now, it's pretty much a generic delay. You can do this effect with pretty much any other delay plugin. You actually get some plugins designed specifically to do this as well. Actually, I have this Vengeance stereo matrix will do exactly the same thing. This is actually probably a better way of showing how to do it. This essentially just represents your left and your right channel. So what you want to do is you want to delay one of the channels by about 9 milliseconds or something like that. So what it's going to do is it's going to give you a perceived stereo field that's wider than what it normally would be. And you guys should, if we're getting stereo, you should be able to hear that now. Here's the original. You should be able to hear it just spreads out instantly. So to go back to the question about bass lines being mono, as soon as you get up to that mid-bass layer, I make sure everything goes out as wide as possible. I like having a nice big stereo field for that. And you know what, it kind of gives the bass line the illusion of all being stereo, even though most of it is, the sub is actually just is all mono. So moving on again, there's another bass layer on top of that. This one's unfortunately audio, but this one was done with a massive patch, which I put a auto pan on, and then it's actually got reverb all over it as well, and then the reverb is sidechained as well, so it gives you even more kind of a wash sound over the top of everything. And And those notes are pretty much alternating with the ones in this mid bass here. So when you put that all together, you get a nice fat composite of all three of them. A good tip there is also, like I said, you want to try and treat your bass as an entire element. Like, you want to aim for people to listen to this track and they want to go, you know, how the hell did he get that sound? It sounds so detailed. You know, when you listen to them, pretty like by themselves, they're pretty much like arb sounds. But you put them together and it kind of makes this whole, you know, unified sound, which is quite interesting.
So Nate, I think what we all really love to see is getting into the synth. So you had like a sort of like a sub bass, and then like sort of two other basses on two sort of top lines.
Okay, you talking about that sort of unison sound that we had earlier?
Yeah, and building in the silence, the actual.
Cool. Yeah, the Psy. Okay, first I'll just quickly run over this Psy Gallop patch. Pretty simple. It's a saw wave. This actually got an envelope. Sorry, the tone dial is this modulation. It's kind of half mix between a saw and a square, and yeah, and that's essentially all it is. It's just running through a filter, and that's it. I mean, we can redo this. So yeah, this Psy Gallop patch, essentially just two analog oscillators, saw waves routed to the router there. I mean, routed to the filter, and that's about it. Oh, one thing that I do a lot with these kind of more analog sounding things, you know, especially when it's saw waves and square waves, is these days I add a bit of noise into the actual patch. And you can see there's this envelope here is basically well, it's actually flat at the moment, but it adds a little bit of noise into the mix, so you just kind of get the slightly warmer, more analog sound. It's very subtle, but it does make quite a difference at the end of the day.
Okay, so there was a noise. I kind of missed that. There was a noise.
Oh, it's just a noise oscillator. Like you can actually hear it. I'll turn it up.
Okay. And how
like
do you
I said,
patch that?
It's just patched straight through to the filter as well. You can see here, this is running to filter 1.
Okay.
Filter 1 there, and it's just going through the filter. There's an envelope controlling its volume.
Okay.
You can bring up a little bit more click if you do that. It just kind of adds a little bit of treble to it, and then it also just, the noise, something I saw Deadmau5 actually doing, like a lot of his tracks, he actually has a channel running just noise. And as that sums with the other channels, it kind of gives this slightly analog sounding vibe to it. It's essentially just kind of mimicking cable noise, basically.
Okay.
And it just adds like a nice polish to sounds. It's something I've been doing a lot more lately. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say on this patch.
How have you got the filter envelopes set up?
Channel 1,
envelope 1 and 2.
nice sharp decay. Sorry, all these little yellow modifiers are a little bit confusing because they all map to these quick controls. So where it's yellow here, the decay comes up there. It just makes it easier to, to fiddle with like once the reverbs are turned on and stuff, you can actually introduce new stuff there. Like these tone ones, they coincide with these here. So you can turn them up. You're not hearing any of that though. I haven't really messed around with that in this track, just because it's a sub bass. I wanted to keep it quite simple.
Okay, so this is because like I really want everyone to have a good understanding of the actual makeup of this kind of like triple attack bass line. So this massive bass, where does
Okay, yeah. The triple attack thing. I'll start a new. I'll make a new channel here with Massive and just start from the ground up. Yeah, because I forgot this is something we did earlier as well. I'm gonna just make sort of like one of those unison bass sounds that I use a lot in my tunes from scratch. So we start off with a saw square, switch it on to saw wave. We're just gonna route everything through filter 1. I'm not gonna bother with filter 2 for this. This one will make that a saw as well, except we're gonna pull that down an octave. Volume up. Then we'll put some more. This time we're going to leave this a square just to introduce some different harmonics in it. So it's nice and punchy. Okay, so that's the basis for this. Now it's all running into the filter. We're going to quickly put on a low pass filter. As I'm sure most of you know, with Massive, really simple way of setting up modifiers. You just click and put it there. So we've now got envelope 1 modulating the cutoff. There we go. So what Alex is talking about, the double attack thing, I find sometimes when you get it like this, set up the way you want, I'd like a little bit more of a bright click in there. Problem with that is, as soon as I turn this envelope up, now the body of the bass is a little bit too bright. I quite liked it, where it was before. So we're going to turn that back down, and I'm going to add a second envelope onto the cutoff and turn that up. So what this is going to do now is we're going to set this one up to be a really short decay. And you should be hearing that coming through now, like just getting a little bit of click on that second one. So now I've kept the sound as it was from the first one, but we've just added that little second layer of attack to the bass now.
Okay.
So we can actually take that one step further, and a nice little trick to making sounds a little bit more percussive or a little bit more attacky is take that same envelope and we can go and whack that onto the pitch input of the oscillators. So you find when we turn those up, we'll go probably 12. I try to keep them in multiples of 12, so we just stay in the same key when we're doing this.
There's an octave up.
You can hear then it's actually modulating the pitch every time it. You can kind of hear there it's kicking in. It's quite subtle, but it definitely does give you a nice sort of thwack at the beginning of your sounds, especially when you're doing bass sounds or sounds that you want to be quite percussive.
Okay. And what about like unison or?
Yeah, that's the next part of the sound that I always I use these a lot for sort of mid bass patterns. We'll just go over to the voicing over here. Turn on the unison. I go much more than 2 or 3. It kind of just chows CPU, and the sound becomes too thick. Then, let's also just the fourth way of adding attack now is like we looked at earlier. Turn up the volume on the noise oscillator, and then you can actually dial that in with that envelope, which will make it even brighter now as well.
Stunning.
Cool. Then the unisono, you like to turn on the pitch, just so it gives you a little bit of detuning on the oscillators. Not too much, otherwise you start getting like too wobbly there. I always turn on this one as well because we're working in a mid-bass sound now, so we want to do something that's really stereo. And this one basically modulates the stereo position of each oscillator. So we get that, which is really nice and cool. So that's basically the sound. Then we can actually just make a pattern that will go with. So this is how we'd usually do like a mid bass pattern. You don't want to do the 16th note like the sub bass, but we'll do something slightly sparser like that. Oh, wrong key. Yeah, there you go. That's the mid layers. That's really what makes up that big stereo bass sound. Like you'll want to probably cut a little bit of the sub out. You can do some interesting stuff like go and stick delays on there. Cool.
But so these are the mid basses, but there's the sub. Wasn't it like a silent? It's like a silence sub.
Oh, yeah. Earlier we did another. We kind of redid that whole bass again. So we were using a patch that I made from Silence. Yeah,
so
this
you're
is the
starting
sound
from a preset, or
say again.
you're starting from a preset?
This is a preset that I've made. It initially, I'm not super like anal about, bragging that everything comes, from scratch.
Okay.
I make stuff from scratch when it needs to be made from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
This one originally came from this, I think it was the Umit Ozcan library, and it's a BS Saw Bass 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I edited it to suit what I wanted, and this is what we came up with in the end. Yeah, so that's the sound we've got there, and I was using that for a sub earlier. We'll actually just turn off side gallop and we'll do a new one. Now, we were talking about this as well. Sometimes I do put notes on the kick, especially if I'm side chaining it. I don't know, it just kind of sounds different to just sticking the last 3 notes in. Sometimes I quite like it, especially when you're working with slower stuff. You've got room to do that.
Is that something you'd advocate trying at any tempo? We should always try.
I guess it will work in the faster stuff. Like I suppose with the size stuff, you want to be a little bit tidier, and I think using 3 notes is a little bit easier to do that. It all depends on the material that you're trying to mix as well. Like when you're using a kick drum like I do, that's really low and sub-B, you can actually get away with having bass notes on it because there's not a lot of vying for the same space there.
Yeah.
So yeah, sidechain on the bass.
Sweet.
And again, like when I say sub layer, I don't necessarily always mean it has to be like a sine wave. The sub layer for me is really what holds everything together. So it's got to be something that's grounding, that's going to kind of lay down the main groove of your track. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that flat galloping thing. I mean, we can go up with this as well. I don't know if you want to run through this preset as well. This is also pretty much very basic. Again, just stereo dial things turned up on the oscillators.
Retrig.
Saw wave, 2 voices on each one. One's an octave up, one's an octave down.
Okay.
A little bit of noise on the 4th oscillator to just make it a little bit more analog sounding. Yeah.
So that's the kind of dusty click bass sound. It's coming from that noise oscillator.
Yeah, you can hear when I turn this right up. It's got quite a bit of buzz on there, like a bit of noise.
Okay. It's really all about the envelopes of these basses, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that kind of also defines what gear I pick as well. Is silent tends to be really good with its envelopes. Massive as well. They're really tight. I have some plugins which I hate using for bassline just because the envelopes are just never tight enough.
Yeah.
And then I mean with the bass layering as well. Like sometimes, let's take this one that we've just done. Sometimes it's quite cool to just we'll duplicate that channel. So we'll have two playing exactly the same thing, except the second one we're going to edit slightly now. This is just an interesting way of making stuff more interesting. Duplicate it and do some different processing to it. You're constantly just building layers up to make your end result a little more interesting.
Like one way I want to kind of try and get my head around these bass layers is like, do you think you could, like, for instance, run them through Spectrum Analyzer so we could take a look at, get an idea of how these would actually sort of look as well as sound?
For sure. What I'll do is, I think we should have an EQ actually on the master. Yeah, let's do this. Pro Q, it's got a pretty good. Okay, so it's pre-EQ. I'll use the original bass from the track. So we'll start with the side gallop, which is basically the sub layer. So you can see a lot of the info in that sound is coming between sort of 50 and 100, which is kind of where I like to be for bass sounds. I like the stuff kind of sitting quite low down and quite thumpy. If we add the kick into that, you can see the kicks like, I get a bit of feedback there, sorry. Kick is pretty much in the same area. Like a lot of the power of the kick's coming from sort of 50 hertz, 50 to 100. I think the majority of it would probably be around 80.
Okay.
So essentially,
areas of kick.
Yeah, essentially in this track, and this is why I say I always treat the bass line and the kick as one element. Because the kick's tuned in this track, the kick is essentially filling the role of a fourth bass note that isn't being played there at the beginning of each section. So because they're tuned, they actually can play together perfectly without competing for any space, because there is a side chain on that side gallop as well. So when you play them back, you'll get, there's no real competition between them, even though they're pretty much occupying the same spot in the mix. And then obviously to keep the attack of the kick, that's why we have that high little click. I always make those clicks quite harsh on a kick, just so that they stand out and come through.
What, do you actually boost it, or is it that was in the synthesis?
Well, it's usually in the synthesis section. I'll just turn up the click.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So if we look at the next section, which is the mid square one, see it's pretty much sitting everywhere between 100 and 2K. A lot of the energy sitting there, and you'll see the next one. If we add the next one in, there's a little bit more top end info that comes in there. It's around here. So I mean that's what you want to kind of break them down into is this area here, which is kind of your detail. Let's put it that way, because that's where your stereo info is coming from. That's where all the fancy effects are going to be on your bass line. If you're using reverb on your bass line, you want it to be around this area that it's creating the detail. Everything down here, you want to keep that simple. That's got to be mono. It's got to be straightforward, and that's the driving force behind your track.
Okay, so that makes me wonder, like, do you use sort of stereo as like a mix tool, like to actually make these things all sit together?
Definitely, yeah. we chatted about this earlier on as well. Is if you go and look at like some of the old Beatles recordings, there's no EQ used in any of them. They literally just put the drums on the left, vocals in the middle, guitars on the right. You know, and it's
For better or worse.
yeah. But you know what? The funny thing is once the first time you hear it, it's a little bit weird. But once you get used to it, you actually realize how genius it is because there's space for everything in those mixes. They actually sound pretty good.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is now because you're keeping your mono bass line kind of in the middle, that's the driving force behind it. When you start detailing them, the reason why I go so stereo is because it just creates room for everything. So you get this kind of wall of sound feeling where everything has its own place. You spread the stereo out quite wide on these mid bass patches, and then hold everything, make space for the sub in the middle. I mean, you can often see like this mid bass, for example. I'm not being too aggressive with the low cut. Technically speaking, this should be overlapping a lot with the sub bass, but because I'm running this stereo delay plugin on it, which is basically it's sticking it on the far left and the far right. It immediately makes space for that middle section. So a lot of producing it's like a puzzle game. You're just looking for each puzzle piece's space, on the board, and once you find it, then everything starts to make sense and it sounds good and so on.
Yeah. I've got a question. If your bass is either it has like different notes in it, like more arpeggiated sounds, so other notes in the scale, or if it's modulating bass lines, so actually getting chord changes.
Yeah.
What do you do to keep that smooth? Because that's one thing I've always found is you start adding notes to your bass line and those notes are too loud and.
Okay, yeah, that's I've depending on the track again. Sometimes you have that issue, sometimes you don't. It really just depends on what the frequencies are. Like actually, this track, I don't think I actually bothered with it, but we'll have a look down here. Here's a section where it actually does modulate, so we'll just solo that one. A good way to do this is to actually have a look now at the spectrum analyzer that we had on there, and you'll actually be able to see the root notes shifting around. So look there, it shifts down there, and there, and back again. So you can actually see like different chords have different frequency values, obviously. So there are times when a sound that you're using will just accentuate one of those frequency bands too much that it just kind of booms in a track. It's not doing it so much here, which is why I didn't bother doing what I'm about to show you now. And you can kind of control it to an extent with compression as well. If you've got a bit of compression, you can stop that from happening. But if you've got a sound that's booming too much when you hit a certain note, what I do is just duplicate the tracks. Cut out the section, like if that note is causing the problem, just cut it out, mute that one, and now you've got two of them playing exactly the same thing, except the second one, you could now go and move the EQ around. So if it was bothering you, if that was booming too much, we could move the cut, maybe change the EQ on that one, and then you've got two separate channels, but the one's got fixed EQ and the others are just playing as normal.
Okay, so you're actually copying it onto other channels and EQing those
yeah. I mean,
notes
rather than sit and try and automate EQs to stop it from doing that, I just duplicate the channel and cut out what I don't want, and then just do it on the channel like that.
So it seems to me like you're not really doing a lot of processing. Like you're keeping it sweet coming out of the synth, and it's like it's not. It's obviously there's a lot of experience which has gone into it, but I know a lot of people get really, really wrapped up in how to process their basses and putting a million, compressors and limiters and distortions and EQ, especially EQ. But looks like you've kept it really simple.
Yeah, it's if you kind of keep your head on and you just think about what you're doing, there's not really a lot that you should be doing. I find like a good practice to do when you're mixing stuff is to actually don't use EQs or compressors at all, and just try and mix the track with volume faders and low cuts,
Mhm.
and then obviously your stereo panning. You should be able to get a really good result with just those tools if you're thinking about it right. I mean, I try not to. Back in the day, I kind of used to throw everything to fix a problem, like everything in the kitchen sink. Like nowadays, I try and cut back and I do things as simply as possible. And I find if you can fix it with less, at the end of the day, you're going to have a better, cleaner result.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Simon's question again there as well. The mid-bass delays, what I usually do to clean that up is to commit it to audio. So you don't have these delays running rampant on every single channel. What is a pretty good tip when it comes to, like we were talking about now with modulating bass lines, when I commit those delays to audio, what happens is, well, I'll just set this up quickly so we can see. I'm just going to take a look at this one. I'm just going to create like a quick little modulating pattern here. We'll do that and just add a delay to this quickly. See, so what's happening now is every time it runs over into a new chord, which is there, and there, your delays are going to be running over into the next section. You don't necessarily want those delays in that note running into the next section of the chord. So what I'd usually do is I'll actually double these up and create space between each one and do this. So essentially what I've done is just doubled up the length of them, and then I'll bounce each one separately. So we'll do an audio bounce of that. And again, we'll do the same for the next one. And then when we put them back together again, so that you kind of get a consistent delay through the whole thing. We'll go to the audio channels now, just bring them up. Oh. And I bounced them without re-importing them. Okay. No worries, we can grab them from here.
Is it so you're bouncing 2 bars and then starting it from the second bar?
You'll see when I'm bouncing 2 bars. I'm sorry, I should have set it to import the files. I just got to quickly grab them. It's bounced them onto my desktop, so there should be delay bounce 1 and 2. Just pop these in quick. Keep them just on the same track. They're pretty much the same thing. Okay. Okay. So that's the audio of the delay bounce that I've done. Because when you start bouncing this, obviously the first note or two, the delay hasn't kicked in yet. So if you're going to be looping these, you kind of want the delay running the entire time. So by the time the second bar kicks in, the delay, like you can hear the difference. Like I'll start playing this one. Let's just mute. Let's mute that. That first note or two, it takes a little while for the delay to kick in. But if you're starting it from here, it's instantly the delay's already in there. So we'll grab just that one, and now you can loop those. Obviously, you want to just be careful of clicks like that when it loops. You can just cut those out. But what I'll do is, once I've bounced these delays, they get sidechained as well. So here's a little trick for doing that. Another way of cheating at sidechaining, if you're lazy like I am and don't want to do the hard way. If you grab your cutting tool and set it to your quantize to quarters, which would be where your kicks are. If you, sorry, this would just apply to Cubase users. Okay, well, most of the stuff that I do, you can probably do it in. I mean, you will be able to do it in other DAWs. There's nothing that other DAWs can't do. But Cubase is just, there's a couple of really cool shortcuts like this, for example.
Lots
if you hold
of Cubase users here.
Okay, yeah, cool. Nice. If you hold down Alt with your cutting tool on a quantized section like that where your kick would be, it'll automatically slice the whole file into the same segments.
Mm-hmm.
And sidechaining, bam, bam, and just click on that. You can kind of draw in a sidechain, and there you have it. It's like easy cheating sidechain. And then we can just load in the other one that we also bounced, and you've got the and that's pretty much how I stop the delay from becoming noisy. You know, basically just commit it to audio, make your parts like that, and then it should keep it all under wraps.
Very clean and very clinical.
Yeah.
I just suspect would be sort of quite different, fairly different from the maybe a bit more straight up.
No, I mean they sound very different, but it's essentially a lot of it's the same principles that that we're doing. So let's have a look. The original was this one. That was just a sample. I think it's an asterisk kick. I think it actually came from Avi or Infected Mushroom or something like that. Compared to what I do nowadays, it's quite sort of it's quite punchy compared to what I'd normally do.
It's a lot more knocky, isn't it?
Yeah. I think what we were doing early on is we in the previous session we made another kick with that Nicky Romero kick thing, and I think we got quite a successful sounding sidekick out of this. A little bit less with this kick thing. You're building kicks, like generally rule of thumb is the sidechain stuff kind of has a little bit more energy up here, so you got a little bit more high frequencies in the beginning. That's quite nice. So we'll use that one now. So anyways, the kick, generally the kick and the Citron stuff, not all that subby. Like I added a little bit here to just kind of make it a little bit more boomy, just because I like the low kicks.
That's your kick.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the boost?
It's just around 80.
Okay. Seems like that's a pretty constant thing for you.
Yeah. 80's kind of like my 80 to 100 is kind of like the sweet spot for me. Like I find everything 75 around there. That's really I mean you can kind of break it into like parts of the body, and 80 hertz is really kind of below the groin area. It's like you feel it in people's legs. When you hit like 120 to 150 to 250, talking about like sort of punched in the chest kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that works for some stuff, but I kind of like to keep the sounds a little bit more smooth and sort of liquid, you know. And I find that the sort of range around here, it's not really conducive to smoothness. You know, it's quite a harsh area to be working in. So I often cut stuff out of there.
You've also
And I'd
got like a
rather put
lot of it. You got a lot of attention from all your sort of layered bass lines and stuff. And those
yeah.
those would I would assume being quite active in that area that you've cut out there. So it's almost like, I mean, do you do that to make space for those or?
Well, coincidentally, like the stereo bass and the sort of bass add-ons, the sort of mid-range bass,
Yeah.
they do kind of fall into that area.
Mhm.
And that kind of area is good for sort of like sharp detail and stereo imaging and things like that. You know, it's good to keep stuff there that's doing that. I just don't like that kind of muddies up the subs, you know. So I like to keep that clear when I'm dealing with the bass line
Okay.
and the kick.
Hmm. Okay,
So
cool.
what happened with the bass line here is the original bass line was done in Chronox, but Chronox version 1. And I don't think it's available anymore. It's like a really, really, really old VST. The other bass line that I used to use loads was Trilogy. And the specific sound I was using was this. I mean, if you go into Omnisphere and you've got them linked, so if you've got Trillion installed, you can actually link it to Omnisphere. If you go to the Trilogy library, it's this TR Prophet 5 saw. Trilogy is great for this because you got all these sampled analog synths which sound really, really good. But this one in particular had like a really nice twang to it, and I've used that loads. It's really simple. Literally just that waveform going through a 24 dB filter with the envelope turned up all the way, and the filter envelope looks like that.
So that's
Just
just
really
out of the
tight.
box.
Yeah, this is super, super simple. This and that's what it sounds like. So again, it's quite kind of bland. Okay, sorry, that's the EQ and a little bit of distortion that we put on the bass line. We were talking about quadrifuzz early on. This is me using Saturn trying to get that sound, which does a pretty good job of it. So again, bass layers. That actually, this one, like we were talking about the delays, like trying to clean up the delays so that they don't make too much mess in the audio track. That's exactly what I've done with this one. Is I actually bounced the mid bass with the delays, then cut them all into sixteenths, and then resequenced everything with the delays in there and little fades on the end just to kind of make them a little bit more staccato and tighten them up slightly. So there is actually there's loads of delay and stuff on this. It's all been chopped so that it sits really tightly, and it's stereo as well. So you kind of get that.
How did you make it stereo?
The original track, I think it's got that same stereo delay. That ADT plugin, I've been using that for years. I might have actually done that the old school way. Meaning, I probably took, let's say, if we wanted to make the snare stereo, you can instead of using a plugin, you can duplicate it.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do then is pan one channel hard left.
Yep.
And another channel hard right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you should have this on every single DAW as well. There's a delay compensation for that channel. If you just set that to whatever you want, 10. When you play those back, it's going to give you the same effect. And you can kind of hear the stereo going on there with those. And that's most likely how I did that. I can't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure that is what I would have done there.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly, seeing as we couldn't cover the bass line for Big Blue, I just sort of, in the last session, we just kind of remade that one again. It's from this preset that I basically just altered. I've used it in a couple of tracks now, just different versions of this preset. Yeah, I mean, 5 different bass lines, it's not all that uncommon for me. Again, in this previous session, so we had this Vanguard sound. This is the bass line from Big Blue.
Yeah.
I just edited it slightly. I put this widen, set the delay to wide and turn up the fat a little bit. A lot of the motion in that bass line just came from a ping pong delay.
Okay.
Really simple. And again, had to balance them out I think in this case we just did like a side chain to stop the delays from going all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much Big Blue's bass line. I think actually what I did is I actually balanced a separate delay channel out so there was more delays. It kind of feels like a 16th note progression, but it's actually just delays kicking that in.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, again, like 5 bass lines. What have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, what we were saying earlier as well is don't think of the bass lines as having to be bass sounds. I mean, they can actually just be lead sounds that are kind of, accenting the bass line. So, like in this case, we put in this like little saw wave thing. Distortion on effects on bass. Yeah. I don't go crazy on the distortion. Like what I had on that one over there is that this one I really like, this SPL twin tube. It's pretty subtle and just kind of adds like harmonics. It's not really massive distortion. There we go. So you can see it's just a harmonic style and then the saturation. It kind of gives you that tube sound, but it's quite a nice sounding one.
Mm-hmm.
Fab Filter Satin I use as a multi-band distortion. So you can actually have different settings for every single one. I tend not to destroy the subs too much. The more harmonics you add on a sub, the more difficult it comes to hear what key you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I find keeping that quite clean on the bottom end is better. If I'm going to distort the sub bass, I'd rather do it on the high frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
As far as reverb settings go, I do use sends on the reverbs. This is actually another question earlier today as well. I often set up quite a stereo percussion reverb basically. And it's kind of hard to hear. I mean, we can. I'll do the track for you. I don't think it's actually enabled on this track now, but I'll often just add a Valhalla room reverb. There's a little preset in here that I use. It's medium ambience or small ambience. And what it does is we can actually just let's grab a group track. I'll just have a look at it over here quickly. If you route this through to the Valhalla room now, turn that on. Yeah, it's really like quite a subtle reverb. But yeah, it's a really short little reverb. What I'll normally do is I'll go onto the effects sense for that reverb as well, and just cut the lows out because they don't need to be there. That's pretty much the only reverb that I set up on sends. I prefer to do everything as inserts, and then rather change the mix settings for the FX.
Okay.
Just that way, like. It used to be that you needed to run effects channels because you couldn't load more than 2 or 3 reverbs in a session, and then,
So it's
you'd run out of processing speed. The thing is, nowadays I can have 200 channels and I can have reverbs and inserts on every single one of them, and it's not even going to put a dent in the machine. So I like to have them on inserts because I just have more control over it, and I like also again, like I like them on the inserts because when I do bounce the stuff down, I can start doing things like chopping off reverb tails and starting to mess around with the audio side of stuff, which becomes a little bit complicated when you've got stuff running through FX sends and stuff like that.
So basically, we have a one stereo channel. Okay, now I will be a little more detailed, so I will make it kick, but I never do it. So if you are probably want to know where do I get the kicks, basically I was in the same position as all of other guys. I didn't know any producers, blah blah blah, so I didn't have any. So my way was to have a good kick was finding a track that I really like. For example, I know the kick that I like and that I'm using and that I can steal it from. Basically, it's, for example, Symbolic and Ace Ventura. This is just an example. I have the original, this kick, but this is how I was doing it for the years, you know. So I want you guys to know that there is nothing bad about taking the kick from somebody else that you like, because
that's what they did anyway.
Yeah.
They probably did it, you know. So
Yeah.
no reason to feel bad about it. So we have the whole track here, and if you listen track, you will hear like some parts where you can steal it. I mean, sorry. You have crash here, so you cannot get it from there, or even here we have a small tail, but there is one offbeat part that I know already that it's here. So now we have, so you can hear. It's perfect. So you just zoom in, you take the scissors, and you make it, from here, like here. Yeah, everybody knows how to chop probably the kick. So basically, just find the best source you can find, and that's it. You know, that's the. Sorry. A little bit fade out, and we have a kick here. Yeah, just do it. Don't think that there is anything bad about it. I mean,
everybody's doing it.
Yeah, basically, in the producers, when you get some connections and everything, the samples are circling around, you know. So, but still is the question: who is the first one who did the same thing? You know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, and I never use it as the same. I will put a lot of EQ on it, and I will have my version of it. Just I need the good source, because especially this kick came out from Bassism. You know the VST that has a lot of kicks, and you can. I think it's preset number 3. So Huja Boy, he did some processing on it, put it, gave somebody else. Yeah, this is the one. And somebody else did something else, and this is going all around. But the source is the same, and nobody's making their kicks. Believe me.
Yeah.
Because
I don't even know how.
this I know how, but I never came close to any results as I can use like this, you know. So it's such a big process, layering, doing the so many things. So just don't spend your time, because you will lose a lot of time by making your own kick. So just take the one that you like, and that's it. Yeah. So we have kick here. We will make 135, for example. Okay, maybe 138. Okay, it's
what's your normal BPM these days?
135, 138. Yeah, is now E-clip, but I have so many tracks with 140, 142, but I will keep it for another project.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Time Travelers with Algorithmia, this is a new project that we will start soon. So we will do 138, 142.
And maybe when you and me finally get around to that collaboration, eh?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, another layer is, as I said, from Trillion. Okay. So trillion, and let's do it simple as this to show you the kick of trillion. Like, okay, now, yeah. So, yeah, maybe G. G is really easy to mix. You know, I can do it really fast, pretty decent. So the first note is I put around 90 velocity because of the envelope. So the first one will not be so opened. And you get a little bit already of the sidechain thing, but I will put sidechain on it already. So basically, I just dropped in instrument channel with a trillion, click once, and when you turn on the filter, it already sounds really good. Really, you can start with this. It is that good, you know. So I mean, I do a lot of things, but this is really good for a beginning, you know, and to start tweaking from here. So basically the cutoff is really opened. I don't like to be more than 100 Hertz. Envelope is really wide, and I always change. This is a power filter. I mean, when you go to this zoom in, like, you have two filters you can use, but basically I'm using only one. And you have a lot of types of filter here, and for the bass you will always use low pass filters, and you have like so many options. But for me, I like those kind of 12 dB. This one crisp 12 dB for me is working the best, because it has less mid-range and more low end and more high end. So basically the difference is not that big, but yeah. So the first thing I do, I want to get rid of the low end of the bottom, because if we analyze this with, for example, RME DSP or
A lot of
DigiCheck,
people love
which
that
is
one,
it's the best one for sure.
yeah, everyone uses
Okay.
it. Like, if they have
Yeah. So we will see that we have a lot of on 20 hertz, and 20 hertz. I don't know how this big is, you know, but 50. The one wave is big, 6.8 meters. So it's a lot of informations and taking a lot of space, especially down here. So you need to be really careful about this area here, because I'm cutting everything from maybe 20 or something like this. But you will hear now the magic of especially the DMG, this equality. So it has a 2 times like low cut, so this is why I like it the most.
Nice.
And even one is doing really good. So I just type 20, and here I type also 20, and turn them on and put to the maximum of 48 dB. So we get more
it's like a
more
brick wall
cutting.
almost.
Yeah. So I will turn it off, and you will see the magic in the mid range everywhere, because now as it goes, it has a lot of information down here, and when you turn it, it's such a big difference, you know, and really open, more open than you see. Now 25 is going to minus 45, and if I turn it off, it's going to. This is really big, you know, thing for a. And even this thing, I'm doing it twice, always, you know. Yeah, because I don't know. Sometimes I'm doing 4 times, sometimes 3, because I will figure it out later in the mix how it reacts with the kick. So this is the basic what I ever do. Like when I finish doing this, okay, on the last one I always put a side chain, which I prepared like bass, because yeah, it's just like first 2 notes, you know, to go maybe like this or like this. Okay. So this is without, you know, you can hear that kick and the bass have some kind of conflict. Now it's more, kick is more open.
So you're sidechaining the bass with the LFO tool. It's not
Yeah,
really
yeah,
a
yeah.
sidechain, but getting
Yeah,
sidechain effect, and that's letting the sub of the kick come through.
Yeah, for sure. Like this part here, you see that we have a this tail of the kick that is matching with the first note. So it's really important that first note is not that loud, because we will have a summing here, and it will be much. I will explain you now So I'm adding one group channel,
Mm-hmm.
calling it kick and bass.
Yep.
I like to put it up. And now I'm telling the kick to go to the group kick and bass, and also to the trillion. And yeah, you don't have options to come from here, so you need to open a channel window and stereo output to the group. So basically the kick and bass are going to the group, and group is going to the stereo out. Stereo out is your main thing. So sometimes I like to see what's happening, and there is this sexoscope or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Sexoscope.
So basically I found out that on 0.031 you can see the best.
Oh, really?
0.031.
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah,
'cause
man.
I love this plugin. I always use it.
Yeah, so you can see what's happening here,
Okay.
and you can sync redraw. So basically here the bass is a bit loud, much louder than. So I always put like this meter is okay, but it's even close to something that's really the best thing is that you if you have RME or something, you know, those things are more precise. So basically kick is going to the -80 always because of the gain staging.
-80.
Oh, this is 18. This is no,
18.
sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. It should go to the -18. So basically I always take the input
Yep.
and pulling it down to the until it gets to the -18, because I don't have time now to speak about gain staging, but people should read about it. It's really important that you hit, you know, if you hit on the 0 and you put EQ and try to bring up something, you immediately go to the peak. So the best value of every sound when it comes in before the presets and before the fade knob, it needs to be around -18.
Yeah.
And try always to get -18. So
Okay.
Yeah, again, guys, there's another really good article on Sound on gain staging. We're just going to stick a link for that in the chat now.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, check that out. That's really
It's really
good tip.
important. So we have a kick on the input on -18, and because I'm now on the headphones, I'm not sure I will do good leveling, but I know that the perfect is that the bass is 2 dB lower than the kick. So
Yeah.
yeah, but this bass is a pretty raw now. -20, around -20. Yeah,
Do you have any rules for like
something.
how, like, do you always have the kick and bass the same level, or 1 decibel away from each other, or 2 decibels, or any rules?
2 decibels is the perfect match. I mean, I analyzed my tracks that was sounding the best on the dance floor,
Yep.
and I came back home, opened and measured, and saw that it's around 2 dB difference.
Like a scientist.
Yeah. So basically,
the kick drum is 2 decibels louder.
yes.
Okay.
So one more thing I do here on the kick and bass group, I put another one DMG, because I also think that kick needs to be cutted together with the bass. If you cut only the kick and you cut the kick and the bass, it's, for me, it's giving different results.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't did any scientific research about this, but I know it's working for me. So
Well,
basically around
sounds
20
good.
or maybe 18. They just sound much better together, you know. Maybe it's something about getting through this EQ or whatever.
Yep.
So basically that was it, and we can turn on analyzer. We will hear a lot of information from the bass here. So basically I always cut
Oh, those
the
harmonics.
yeah. Basically I always cut the middle.
Okay.
So yeah, it sounds quite good. Now we will skip to the coloring. So I always put, like, after this I put this Trend 6, which is really good plugin to make
Waves.
more. Yeah, it's from Waves package. So Trend 6 multi stereo. Just a second, yeah. And it's like a it's like multi-band compressor, just opposite. You know, it's bringing the value up, not compressing it down.
Yep.
So I don't need it for the lower. So first two bands I always cut, and it's really important where do you put. I always put it around 50.
Okay.
And here you can start with 4. So 4 dB up. You will see now what's happening. You get really good results, but whenever you put it, we get a phase cancellation or something. We will skip on that later. Actually, we can do it right now. So basically, the magic of the kick and bass, I realized that everything is about the phasing. You need to fix the phases. This is the crucial thing about kick and bass. So I put the PH 979 on the bass as an FX, and I will click force mono. So basically all stereo information are lost, so bass is now only in mono. So what I first wanted to do is to fix the latency. If you are doing your bass from the any VST or something, every plugin that you put on, it creates a delay. You will see it by recording this. Sorry. Okay, so I don't want it to mess the setup, so I will just export it like bass and import it inside, so you can see that the first note have a really big latency here. So this is really not good. So you see the first transient. So basically the bass is really late. So what I'm doing it, you can convert this to the waveform or one note and make it again, but I want to have the full control till I finish the track. So basically I just put, you can do it here. It's also delay. So I'll just play and try to find the perfect spot for it. It sounds much better. Also, you can turn on the sexoscope and you will see that now waveform is a little bit bigger, but it's going like it should go, like in a flow with the kick. But on the beginning, I'm sure there's some cancellation. You can see it here. So it's kind of destroying because it's late, and so like this I get the perfect timing, and now I'm trying the perfect phase.
Are you looking at the phase? Okay.
You can see it, but you really can hear it in the low end. Like here, you know. From here, and it's really, I mean, now I'm on the headphones, I'm not sure that I'm doing the quite good stuff, but if you are playing only with those two knobs, and basically always for trillion is like from -5 to -11 is the best spot, so you have some kind of orientation where you should put it, and here you don't have any rule. It goes from 0 to, it depends from a tone, it depends from BPM of a track, it depends from the kick. So basically play around and find the perfect spot. Sometimes just flipping the phase from 100 degrees, you will get such an awesome result.
So what exactly are you, as you move that phase button, what exactly are you looking for in the Smexoscope?
You can see,
are you
because
listening?
The phase issue is happening only here, you know, because there is no bad phase on the if the bass is going alone.
It's mono, so there can be no phase anyway, right?
Yeah, but the phase, you see, like it's going up and down. This is plus, this is minus. Yeah. So only here is the
where both
kind
the
of
kick and bass are.
Yeah. So you can see they are only matching in this area.
Yeah.
So this is what we need to fix. You know, we can do it like this. Like I will export this now.
Yeah.
Okay, 1. And now I will flip the bass of the and export it once again and import it. Yeah, I didn't do good. I was bad.
Bad.
Okay, one. Let's go again. All right, new. Okay, and with another. Okay. So basically, where is it here? Yeah, you can see it's kind of
Distorted.
different values. Yeah. So those kind of things is because they're trying to for example, this is trying to make a perfect sine amplitude, the kick in this moment, and the bass is starting to do something different, like here, and it's destroy the phase.
Yeah.
And you need to find the perfect spot where they are not summing it together. When they sum, you will get a boost here, like we have here now, I think. Yeah, like you see it is going a little bit up over here, so this is kind of boosting. Yeah. So basically you want to get this on the kick. You want to have the kick as it is, you know, just the bass coming through and not destroying anything and not making some. You see how it's changing the waveform. So basically find the perfect spot, and if you move a little bit now, you need to start chasing phase again. So it's really important to find the. Yeah, it's a big process, but it's the proper way. Playing around and you will get an awesome results. That's for sure. So this is basically the crucial thing about kick and bass for me, and of course the Trans 6. Really, it gives such a good color, and like it's compressed or something. The bass starts to sound really plucky, and for me this was one of the most. Before this I was using a C4, which is kinda doing the same thing, just it's compressing, you know.
Opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing the
Trans X is it's a multi-band transient designer.
So
I think
you kind of get
slightly different.
Yeah. It's slightly. With this, I get more energy, you know, with Trans 6, with boosting the high and mids, you know, so that way. You. And after this, I do a lot of EQing, which I cannot do now, but I can open some other projects and to show.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be really good actually, because Justin's just asked, could you show us an audio file when you've already done this already? So it'd be good to have an
for sure.
example of that. Yeah, that'd be really good.
Yeah. Actually, I need to go now for one more tip. Is that here? I basically put this
This is a
sound
kick and bass
toys. Yeah. Radiator.
Yeah.
It's the lamp mic. It's the lamp mixer that I was telling you about, which. With this knob up, you get some noise, you know, like you will hear probably.
Yeah.
Like maybe not now because there is noise from the hangout, but you just pull it down, you know, because you don't need it, and you don't need to put anything. This will get a really good color just putting on it, you know, because it simulates a lamp color.
Yeah.
So I'm putting that on it, and when I do like on the kick, basically. You will see that this kick has around 1K, 2K, it has a peak, like this one here. I don't like it, you know, because it doesn't need to have it, because 1K, 2K is most important thing for the melodies and everything, for the human ear, and kick and bass are just the powerful background, you know, like more what's coming here, you know, what's happening.
Yeah.
So they don't need to have a lot of, even techno music, they don't have nothing, they have like something like this, you know, from the kick and bass.
Yeah.
Something like this, you know, they don't even need it. They put a hi-hat, something to get the punch or. But in the trance it is important, this part, but not that much as low part, you know. So basically that, and now it's coming the Sonox suppressor on the end.
Okay.
Which I'm telling it, yeah. So what is doing it's not letting the 50 or the area that you selected to going more than you say, like minus 80 dB. So sometimes it's minus 90 for me, and then I get like not that subby as I had in the past, like more subby, you know, because I'm clearing a lot of mids, you know, to be perfect. And clearing the mids, you leave the low end, and on the end you get so loud low end.
Can I ask a question? Do you have, like, once you finish your kick and bass, do you have that at a certain level inside the track before you move on? Like, do you have the whole kick and bass group at like minus 10 or something?
They are going to minus 15.
Minus 15?
Minus 15 RMS, around, yeah.
Okay.
Cool. But RMS, not the peaks, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Guys, I know that you are the main thing that you are putting the effort in the studio is the kick and bass, okay? Now, the kick and bass is of course the most important thing, okay? So when you're working on a track, probably 50-60% of the time that you need to put is on the kick bass, you know? And then you need to have the hook also in the track. Otherwise the track is just technical, there is no hook inside, this is a different thing, we're gonna work on it later. About the kick and bass, okay? Now, I know people doing kicks and stuff like that. I try to do kicks myself. I did kicks in some tracks of Major 7, some tracks of X Noise. But today I found it very easy to work on a kick, which I already have. Okay, so I'm just taking a kick. Sometimes I cut in a kick. This kick, actually, I cut it from a track. I don't remember what track. And it's been with me for about a year or two.
That's really normal, isn't it? That's really normal for big
it's pretty normal
producers.
to cut a kick. You know, you can cut from anywhere a bar, I think, but legally. But not talking about legal things. It's just a kick, you know.
Yeah.
In a way, it's very important, but it's not important, you know. So it's very important because it's all the track lean on the kick, but it's not important as a color of an artist, I think. Because what come on it's more important. So if the kick it's now depends on the BPM and everything. We are working now on 138. And when you look at the kick, okay, and you look at it in an analyzer, for example, what you need to have. Let me try to stop the analyzer, okay? So there is a way to stop the analyzer. Just a second. It all depends about, of course, the frequency of the bass, okay? Probably all of you know that frequencies of the bass, you know, if you're working on a note, for example, like a A, that you have a lot of 50 hertz. And then the second double where the bass is going to go up is 100, and then 200. If you're working on an E, for example, it's a 40 hertz. It's a clean 40 hertz. And then the second time you see a peak in the bass is 80, and then after that is 160.
It's double.
So when you're working on this track, for example, it's a D diez. So a D diez is supposed to be around 35 hertz, something like that, which is a bass note, which is very problematic in a way because in some systems you don't hear it even, you know, just like they cut in it, or
at
it's
35.
very hard to get. It's very hard to get this sub bass up, and but still it's putting a very impressive kind of warm on the bottom, this 35 hertz, you know. You need to cut it from the left in a way that you're not gonna hear the 30, the 25, because you have 35. You don't want to hear the really dirty bass, you know. So with this, we're doing with some EQing, linear EQ. But when coming back to the kick frequency have to fit the bass note in a way.
Okay.
You know, so in this kick, for example, I have a very strong 40 hertz. which is giving me a really nice sub bass. When we're working on progressive, for example, more than full on or psychedelic fast tracks, it's very important to have the 40 hertz, I think. What's
40
giving you
hertz.
a really 40 hertz, that's what giving you a big size of a mix. As long as you get more fat down, you will get more high up, you know?
Yeah.
You can stretch the 12 to 16,000 hertz, 16K over there, and it will sound still nice and shiny when you have a really, really low bass. And when you have a
Yeah.
bass which is cutted on the 40 hertz, then the mix is okay, but it's not huge, So,
Or slow BPM.
it's more coming to in a slow BPM, but lately when I came back to do work now, I worked a lot on Major 7, now I'm coming back to work on X-Noise, and I did just like 2 tracks, one with Joe and one with Headroom.
Yep.
I still use the same kind of like method that I really want the 40 hertz also in the kick bass. And of course, because of the speed, you don't hear a lot of bass as in progressive, because the 142 BPM, then it's like less bass.
Yeah.
But I still want these frequencies because so I'm doing my best to do that, and it's working.
So sorry, are you boosting at 40?
I'm not boosting. I'm not doing something which is not natural.
Yeah.
It's very important not to do nothing. You can always improve the bass in his frequencies. You know what I mean? If the bass is in E, for example, and it's hit on 40 hertz, then you can push a little bit more the 40 hertz to make it even more obvious.
Yeah.
But if you have a bass, for example, like in G diez, which is like I don't know, or A, let's say, which is a 50 and a little bit above, and then you're trying to push the 40, you will hear just like you will hear. You can push a lot, but you're not gonna hear the 40 hertz. You know what I mean?
There's no harmonic.
You will have to get the 40 hertz from the kick. And what we're trying to do here is to have all the range of the bass, of the kick bass. Will have to have all the range of the bass from 40 till it ends, and it ends in around 200. Okay? So once you have the most of the frequencies from the bass, you don't have any hole in 80 or a hole in 100 or a hole in I don't know, in 60, then you're getting as much as fatness that you want to get. So people are asking me why your kick bass is so fat. Is because I'm trying to get as much as frequencies as I can from the bass layers, from all the bass. Now, if I don't have it in the kick and I don't have it in the bass, I will probably use something in order to get this frequency also up, So in this case, for example, the kick is not long enough, and you can see that I put a kick end from a different kick. And this is something that I think it's a very nice trick that you should do.
Okay.
I'm gonna example how I'm gonna do it. Imagine yourself there is a kick here, okay? A different kick, okay? A different kick here on this channel. So it will be like that, it look like that, right? Let me take an example of this, okay? And take this kick, okay? And there is a kick here. Now, the best way to do it is actually to put any LFO, for example, or a sidechain, right? Take, for example, a sidechain, right? And then you do it like that. Of course, you don't want the click in the end. And there you go. And you have only the kick end. You don't even have to EQ it. You're not gonna EQ it even, because you're gonna hear only the end of the bass, of the end of the kick. And what that thing do, look, for example, from this kick, okay? Anyway, you're not gonna hear the bass because it's a bass, and it's a Skype. It's not Skype, it's a Google conversation, so you're not gonna hear the 40 hertz coming from here. So this is the end of the kick, and it's really the last bit of the bass of the kick, and it's really, really low. It's a sub kick. Okay? And what I did here is actually make this kick longer with a different kick that I put on it a sidechain. Okay? Now about the bass. Now there is there is bases that you can find, and I will open soon a project with a bass which is complete, you know, like one synth did the bass, and that one synth was I think it was from Logic, the ES2,
Okay.
and then you don't need to do nearly nothing. Maybe sometimes give him a little bit of layer of sub, and but in some tracks that I'm doing, it doesn't work actually. You know, you're starting with a sample, and it sounds great, and then you find out that it's not enough bass. Usually happen to everybody. Okay,
Or too much.
sounds so great, everything in the start, and then whoops, you finish the track, or in the middle you can get you feel it that you're doing a mix, and then just to test, and then you put it with a different track that you did, and whoa, there's no bass. But it sounds so great before, you know? So, and then what you're trying to do is trying to EQ it, and if it doesn't work, then you need to layer it, okay?
Okay.
So, not every time, I'm telling you guys, okay? The best way to do it is not to layer, actually. The layering is the last option, I think, because layering is very, very difficult, okay? The
Okay.
most important rule about layering in kick bass is to have it on the note, and that's what people don't have. Okay, sounds stupid.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
The sub from the kick
yeah.
and the main kick. Did you have a method for linking? Are they in the same like key?
For example, well, sometimes it comes from experience in a way
Yeah.
that you know that this bass, this kick here, which have processed with the LFO, with the chain. This kick was actually working with a different bass, for example, in a different track, and now I want to bring a bass, the same kind of bass sample, just to and change a little bit of the note. So I'm actually using the same kick and I'm trying to fit it. Or sometimes you have a hole in the kick, like like you feel like there is in this kick enough 40 hertz, but not enough 50. But 60 is great in this kick, you know. So you want a 50 hertz end also. So you bring in a kick which is pure 50 hertz, which
Okay.
most of the kicks are 50 hertz, by the way, like 60, 50. That's the main, when you open the kick and you see the main jump over there in the bass is
Yep.
63 or 50 on the analyzer, right? So you're taking a kick which is a little bit different from this kick, and you push in just the end, and it's not
Okay.
gonna make any phasing. You make sure it's not gonna make any phasing. It's not, the way you check that it's not making any phasing is you taking the volume, really, really high, like that, like 6, or pushing it here in the volume a lot, and see that you're actually getting more, not less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're getting less, then you actually canceling a frequency from this kick, okay? So you're saying that you're adding something good, okay? You will hear it. It will sound right, you know? And you actually do it with, of course, with thinking, you know? Because this kick have 40 and 63, and this kick was 50. So you actually make the kick a bit more strong on the 50, where this kick is not strong enough, okay?
Okay. And we just have a question from a student. Can you solo that kick sub just to see if we might be able to hear it?
You're not gonna hear it, I think. It's just slow, man. It's just slow. I don't know if you're gonna hear it. Okay,
Let's give it a try.
let me do that. Let me do a mute for everything, so we can hear it. There we go. You hearing
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's quite.
really just at the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, also open the kick. It have to be. You're not gonna feel. You know, you're feeling that the kick is just bigger. You know. You just the feel that the kick is bigger. Now this is very important thing. You know, people missing that part here between the kick and the bass. Look how it's finished. Usually if you're doing like a running bass, you know, then look how it looks here, right? On the bass, you have one note, two note, and the first note is velocity, right? So it's sitting actually on the velocity note, and that makes this part a huge kick. So you have actually a kick on the first two 16s, and then you have a bass on the next two 16, and it sounds as much as full bass as you can have in that way of running bass. If you had a oompa bass, what you call offbeat bass, right?
Yeah.
Then you don't have this kind of problem nearly, actually, you know? You don't have this kind of problem because you have a big, huge bass here, you know? That's why most of the tracks with the offbeat bass sounds really big, you know? And then most of the people who do running bass sounds a little bit thinner. Well, it doesn't happen with the Major 7, and that's one of the reasons. Okay? It's one of the reasons because I'm trying to make as much as frequencies as I can.
We have another question, which is, do you always do that, or just when the kick is short?
Well, lately I didn't find a lot of kicks actually that really good, you know, like usually it helps in any kick nearly. So I'm doing it a lot, you know.
Okay.
Sometimes, well, it so depends how you write your bass also. When you're writing it like that, in running bass, I think usually I'm doing it. If not, then the kick have to be longer, you know. Depends on the kick, of course, yeah.
It depends.
And can you just, for the sake of argument, can you just play the kick without this extra layer and then add it in, just so we can A/B it and hear the difference?
I don't think you're gonna hear it. I don't think you're gonna hear it. It's a very studio thing. You're just hearing much more presence in the kick.
Yeah.
But
is there a bit crusher on that kick drum?
What's that?
Is there like a bit crusher on that kick drum?
No.
No. No. Okay. It sounds like, you know, with the bit.
I think there was originally and I took it down a little bit. There was a bit crusher. Okay. Yeah.
That gives it a lot of. It's like a hi-hat almost. You know.
Yeah. So you look now, right? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep. Yeah,
You can hear me with the music? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So you see that kick. You see that kick. You have 40 hertz, and it's very important when you find in a kick and you have like and you want some really, but it have to be like a really good 40 hertz, you know. Some kicks like it's just noise, not good. You have the gap here, which is very important in the kick when you want to have a big production.
Where is that?
In the gap here, in the 300.
Okay.
Okay. And the high is a matter of taste, I think.
Yep.
You know, the high on the kick is a matter of taste. Okay, I like it open, but anyway, and then let's see this sub layer here. And this is the sub layer. And okay, it's getting also what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting inside. So this is something. This is a trick. When you have a good kick and you want to make it longer and you want to make it fatter, I advise you guys to do that. Okay? It doesn't. Again, it doesn't take nearly EQ. You don't need to cut the EQ. You can cut, but it doesn't matter because the end of the kick don't have high frequencies or mid frequencies. You just have sub. Okay? So doesn't even evolve in EQ here. About the bass layering that I was saying. Okay? So about the bass layering. Well, in this track, I got mad, really mad. You know, like I got some sub bass, I got some sub bass, and I got and then I felt the layering was too much stereo, and I did mono layering. Okay, it's very important that you have. First of all, the kick bass will sound great in mono. First of all, the best you can do, and then you can try to layer it a little bit with stereo, and that give him a little bit of more volume, volume in a way that, you know, not volume dB, a volume in the way that huge mix, you know. Kick bass sometimes, kick bass enter in progressive without nothing sometimes, you know, and you need this, you know, stereo also. make it huge. So you can do the stereo, and each part of them will do something. I will try to play it to you guys. Again, I'm saying it's not the way of working all the time. You know, it's just this track is like that. I show you another track which is much more like.
So this is one thing that's really important point, I think, is that with all this kind of stuff, while there are some really core principles, like something that you said earlier about having the hole in the 300 hertz, for example, there's no hard and fast rules for each track that you have to follow. It's like you have to look at what each track requires and work around that.
Well, look, some people using these kicks with when the 300 is, you know, you see on the here you see like a line, straight line all the way down, and they're using these kicks, and because the analyzer is an analyzer, but what you hear is what matters, you know, in a way, you know, and I think I found out I'm not trusting the analyzer only, you know, for the first half a year I was here in working on studio and did like great mixing. I didn't have this even the sound card. I worked with the stupid sound card of the tractor, and I did a great job. And there was no RME analyzer, and I didn't use any analyzer. I trust my hearing only. And the thing is, when you're doing that you need that hole, I think, in order to make the track big. It's I call it wood. In Hebrew, we call it wood. You know, this punch over there in the 300. It sounds like a old trance shit, you know? Sorry, but it sounds like shit, you know? When they did it like in the old trance, you know, it sounds like a punch, like somebody come with the axe and the, you know? It's shit, man. When you're putting that thing, you know, in the way in the 300, you actually let the bass go out and you make the mix much more beautiful, much more bigger. So I'm trying to do that in a way in every track I'm doing. So you actually, what works for you here is the layering. If it's not necessary, you don't put it, of course. Okay? It's not about as more you can get is the better it's gonna be. No, because layering can actually make you the opposite if you're not doing it right. And what I tried to say before is the most important thing when you layer a bass is to have the key. Okay? The key have to be so sharp. Sometimes if you are 10 semitones down, you're fucking all the bass. Okay? That's why people that doesn't hear so good notes are not supposed to do layering. Okay? Because they're gonna fuck it up. There's no nearly tools actually that you can use a Melodyne, you can use the Cubase Ver or something like that or stuff like that. Of course, it will help you. But in a way, I'm opening an instrument track. I don't know, like a Halium or something like that, something stupid, you know. But I know that I have a note, a clear note of a piano or something like that.
Yep.
Okay, and then I would just like I try to fit it, you know. I try to fit it to the note as much as I can. You know, I want the D sharp, I want the D, I want the A. So if I want the A, for example, I will go to push a A on that piano. I make sure there's no effects on it, no chords, nothing. This is a clear note of an A, and then I try to fix the bass with the synthesizer on an A, so it will sound the best. Not gonna tune. I'm gonna move 10 cent here, 10 cent down, to see if I'm really sitting with the bass tune good. And once that's done, then all the layers supposed to be the same as this layer. Okay? This is the way to do it. If you're fucking up the semitones in just 10 or 15, you will have probably phasing. Okay? You will have a chorus in a way, a phasing in a way. You don't want that. The way to do it also is in mono. Usually, when you do it in mono, it helps. Okay? And then when you open up the stereo, it's just a stereo. And so if you're gonna take all the layers, in a way, none of them are detuning. Everything is sitting right on the note, and that's the way to layer it.
Okay.
Okay, that's the secret about it. Okay, just some people don't hear it good enough, you know, or don't do that checking or that testing. Sound is all about testing in a way. So if you don't do that testing right, then you're fucking up the bass in a way.
Yeah. So, but I mean, with these layers, like, why did you layer it? Like, what were the different elements you have here? Because I don't understand yet how this bass all comes together.
So, for example, this one is more attack, right? Had more
Okay.
attack. I really like the attack of it, and I really like this frequency about it. And it's more like, where's the? It's like sounds like this is like more mid for me in a way.
Yep.
It was mid. In the end, it become like this. Let's see what happened with this layer. This is the main lead one. It's really just mid.
Are these all from the ES2?
No, I think that I'm not gonna lie to you. I just bring it from a different tracks, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Because you started with this bass. I probably started with this bass because I see bass group. It was like about, I don't know, 4 months ago, 5 months ago that I did this track. Okay, so I started with this one, and then I felt it's not good enough. Okay, and then I said, okay, let me bring a different track, bass, which is not maybe on the same note, and then I'm gonna tune it again for that note. Okay, okay, and then I want to push more high, more mid frequencies. So let me add this one, you know, and it sounds great together, you know. Then you have more bass, but where's the mid, you know? So you want that mid, so you push that mid. But then I felt, oh wait, this is stereo, so let me do it a mono layer. So okay, let me do the mono layer. Okay, let me make the mono layer stronger, because the mono is what is important. Okay, so this layer and this layer come together in a way, you know. It's just another layer, but this one is mono and this one is stereo. Okay, and the other things, I guess, is frequencies that I needed, and for here, I don't know if you can hear just the sub. Let me see. Just a sub.
Yeah.
Very low sub that I was missing. So
Okay.
what I can give you I give you a tip about doing sub. Here there's nothing, okay, because it's already after bounce. But for example, if you want a good sub, then for example, you want that sub really punchy, okay? Some people have a subwoofer in the studio. It helps a lot, okay? It's the most important thing is to tune the sub, right? But the sub have to really be a staccato, you know, like you know, it cannot just like be round. It have to be really sharp if you want power in the track, okay? And I really want that power, and I really want that each note to be, you know, on the spot. So usually I'm taking a sub. Of course, you're doing when you want to take only the sub. You're taking for example, a fub filter, and you start to cut, of course, the high cuts, for example, and you can cut it with 48, and you can cut it with the medium linear phase, so it will not make any resonance. But sometimes it's working also on a bit of resonance of this fub. But this is very important thing. When I work with Headroom, he showed me that thing. I didn't use that thing until I didn't know about this function. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I can do linear phase also in Pro Q. Wow, I didn't know. You know, I actually missed it. Oh my God, you know. So I was using it with the link plug, for example.
Yeah.
The link plug EQ, you know, the low. And we're doing that, and we're doing here accurate, taking the data off, doing a very high EQ, you know, for example, cutting from the other side. Okay? But I found that the fab filter is much stronger. And also the isotope, for example, is very strong also. The isotope EQ. Okay? And when you're doing the sub layer, you're cutting as much as you can the bass here, because you don't want the frequency here to mix with the frequency that you really like on the top. And probably also better to cut the sub bass also in the in the in here when you don't want the dirty bass.
Okay.
And when you have this, I'm trying to do it as much as staccato. If you don't know what is staccato, is the opposite from legato. More like attacking.
But
When it's
tappy,
stack,
tappy, tappy. Yeah.
you can use even a small stupid thing like an envelope shaper to make the attack stronger. You can use a compressor. You can use a compressor. You can use you can take any compression and push it up. You can use a multi-band compressor with and then you compress only the low part of it. You don't need to compress all of it. So because you have only low frequencies, so you can do that with for example, with the isotope dynamic.
Yeah.
That you have there a multi-band compressoring. Anyway, you're doing the sub bass more attacked, and you can do fade, and you can do fade a little bit, and make sure that it's sit. Another thing that people need to realize that when you're doing layers, sometimes when you move the layer a little bit here, you see, a little bit
on the track
backwards. Yeah, a little bit backwards. It's actually sounding better, faster, better. Working with the bass a lot, with this going back a little bit. You playing with this, you playing here. They didn't put it for nothing. You playing here to see where the bass sit great with the other layers. Sometimes it will sit here good. Sometimes it will sit down here. You know, minus 20.
Okay. Is that something you do a lot? The track delay?
I'm doing it a lot. Yeah, man. Whoever worked with me knows that I'm sitting on a kick bass like for a long time, and every small thing matters. Yeah. Every small thing matter, you know. Every small thing, where it sit, and if you really want your kick bass to be really sharp and really good, you sit and you hear it in the loop for a long time. I'm actually sitting on a quarter first, you know, like I did the loop here on half. I'm sitting on a quarter like that. And hearing it again and again and again and again and again and again, and fixing it and moving it a little bit, and okay, and then I feel, oh, the pitch here, maybe I'm gonna move the pitch down, 10 semitone down, 15 semitone up, how it sounds. I'm trying, and then it sounds really good. And when it sounds really good, I'm stopping, you know. So it's all about sitting on the kick bass, and I advise you guys to do it a lot, okay? For example, not the layering. The layering is very. But if you, for example, taking this bass and you put it with the kick, and you have this, of course, like that. What people don't usually do, big mistake, is they bounce it from a synthesizer. And when you bounce it from a synthesizer, each note is different in a way. Why don't you take the best note and just like put it like that? Okay. And then do velocity again. Choose the best note. That stupid thing that I show you now, solving problems in about 90% of the people who send me kick bass to fix. That stupid thing here, what I did you now. Okay? Took that note, copying it here. Okay? For example, that's saving a lot of things. Just the modulation of the track of the notes here, you know. And then when you're doing this, I show you another trick. You're just like, okay, I'm here. Let me tune it, you know. Let me try to tune it better, you know. Let me go 12, 16 down on semitones. Try it. Sound better? How is the note now? You know. This is very small things, you know, but when it comes to when you're gonna sit on the note, you will know it. You know?
So are you saying that synths are giving you imperfect notes? Like you don't trust the synthesizer to give you a perfect note?
No, man, no way.
Okay.
No way. No, like, no way. Who trusting a synthesizer? Come on. I mean, like, some people start from zero, right? We talk about it, me and you. I remember that we talk about it. Yeah. Some people start from zero and they're building some bass from zero when there's no preset actually, you know.
Mhm.
I usually choose a preset. I scroll around and then I found something that I like on the preset, you know, in the synthesizer. Oh, have a great mid high on this bass, you know. And then I start to make it straight and everything. But no way, man. I don't think that every synth is actually on the note. No, no. You actually need to check it. And if you check it in the right way all the time, I don't know. Choose a system to check. I don't know. Choose a method. You know.
Sure.
But if you choose a method and you follow that method all the track, then all the track will be on the same way. You know what I mean? So once I was using Melodyne, but now I'm not using Melodyne. I'm using more Ver Audio, for example.
Yeah,
you know?
Very Audio is great for that.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't work all the time, you know, especially in
Okay.
short samples. I'm trusting my ears a lot, you know.
Yeah.
I'm putting it, as I told you, I'm putting a piano and I'm trusting my ears a lot. There's some, I don't know how many people can hear a change of 10, 15 semitones, not
Cents.
semitones,
Cents.
cent. But you guys need to practice it anyway because you need it. You know what I mean? It just, as more as your track is tuned in the leads, in the bass, it sounds much better, of course.
I think one thing that like people would love to know is what kind of, obviously every bass is different. There's not one way to process a bass, but if you were to have more of a simple bass, like just maybe just one synth, then what kind of plugins do you tend to go for?
Okay, so let's
Plugins
go.
you
Let's
recommend?
go. Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna go for a different project now. Then we can come back also for this project maybe.
Okay.
Just this one I did just a week ago actually.
So this is Seven Monkeys, right?
Yeah, this is the Seven Monkeys track, okay? But this is like just a fixing of the track. I did here. Everybody know this track, okay? So this guy, this one, everybody know this track, right? So this track had a different kick bass that people actually loved it, you know. Some guy tell me, hey man, I want this kick bass, you know, and I think it's really shit, okay? The kick bass on it, okay? There's no warm. It was very plastic, you know. It was really plastic, you know. It's nice, but it's like I feel like when I'm playing it, all the new stuff is much warm. So what I tried to do is to bring a sample, different kick bass here, and I changed all the kick bass. So I took the export of the track that is above the kick bass, which is all the track. And when I did it too much stereo also. So actually I did a layer of mono, which is very interesting. It's the first time I'm doing it for all the track. Usually you're doing it for example, for a lead. Sometimes the leads, you open them too much, and then when you're playing in a mono system. So here I did it for all the track, because the track was very open, very, very, too open. And I was missing the middle. So I did the middle. So it's just like, so all this is mono, okay? So it just, and then I added it. I cut the 8 here and I cut the 8 from the break. Okay, that doesn't matter. That's because I thought the track is a little bit too long here and here. Okay, doesn't matter. And then I did a new kick and bass, okay? So the kick here is the kick that I was working in lots of tracks already. Started with the first Drugs, and that means 2011. Okay, the first Drugs, and
Where
then
did you get it
moved.
from?
I actually work with Adi the Addiction, and he showed me that sample of the kick, and that kick had so many problems, you know. So I fixed it with Adi, and then I went to mastering on that track, Drugs, and it does show me there was a problem on 200 hertz, it do domestic, and then I went back home and I fixed it. There was boosting on the 50, less 200, and then, but I tried to shape my kick, and it shaped over 3 years, guys. 3 years I was using that, like every time it's getting better and better. Sometimes you just moving the pitch a little bit. Again, tuning the pitch a little bit make a big difference. Sometimes, you know, one kick doesn't fit all the bass that you're gonna do, right? But this kick fit better for that notes over there, which were low notes like C sharp, C diez, D, D diez, that low notes. And when
Can
I
I just
wanted
say
to
that
do it,
that's quite unique. Like in my experience working myself with other people, generally like people will just look for the perfect kick drum, but it sounds like you found a kick, it had problems, but you kept fixing it and fixing it and fixing it.
yeah, that's me.
You really wanted to use that kick drum, like you had to
No,
fix
no,
it.
no. Actually, no. You know, like one of the tracks that I tell you that we maybe gonna like major lock now with Felix. Felix really he gave me a kick of his, and that kick had the same problem that we talk about, that there is wood in the kick, and it's blocking the mid over there.
Hmm.
And I try to dig a hole inside, and then I dig and I dig and I dig and I dig. And once you dig in inside, you find out that you can push also the bass. And I work on this kick 2 days. I mean, like, I worked on the mix, but you know, you're doing the mix down. Oh shit, the kick is still not good. And you work in 2 days on the kick, and now I have a kick that started with Felix. Doesn't sound like Felix kick anymore. Sounds like my kick now. And everybody also asking for that kick. Oh, the kick of major lock, you know. It's the kick that I don't know if I'm gonna use it again. Specifically for that track, it really works, you know, that kick. And but that kick of drugs is a very unique kick in a way, because it's very clear in the sub bass. It's very nice. It fit for my style of bassing, you know. While the kick of Felix, for example, was a kick that is more fit for gliding basses and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm gonna use it again, but okay, I worked 2-3 days to fix this kick, and now I have a kick, and I put it in my library of the kick. So one day maybe I'm gonna take it out, you know.
Yeah.
I'm fixing lots of kicks, you know, just from the guys, for example, that did that 3 remixes of X Noise. I have 3 new kicks, for example. But then I fix it, and it sounds great, you know. And I want to
Okay.
use one of these kicks, for example. So anyway, this kick is a kick I can trust, and a kick you can trust is worth everything. That's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to say.
Gordon wants to know like what kind of things do you do to fix these things? Is it just EQing, boosting, compression, or all those different things?
Actually, I don't compress a kick.
Okay.
I don't compress a kick, you know, usually. I try not to compress a kick too much, you know.
Okay.
Sometimes the kick is such have a big problem that you open a slightly, a small compression can. We talk about it. It's a fub filter Saturn, for example.
Okay.
You can open this, and it would change completely the kick, in a way, because once you just put it, it sounds different, and then you can use from the mastering section. You can use, for example, the Magic, or you can use other stuff, you know. Try to get any kind of like kind of like band, multi-band, and then try to play with it, for example. And then you have these frequencies here, and then you can actually choose where you want the kick to be. You will see that when you start to play with this plug.
It's like quadrifuzz.
In a way, yeah. Just much better. It's like a professional quadrifuzz in a way, you know.
Okay.
You have distortion and EQ for each one. So in a way you can use that, but this is kind of like a resort in a way, you know, like
Yeah.
I cannot do nothing with the EQs, I cannot do nothing with other things, you know. And then I say, okay, let me reshape the kick with the Saturn, you know.
Okay.
So, because it's very hard. Because it's
let's
very
take a
hard.
look at
But
what you have done.
but this kick didn't pass that, for example, and this kick was original and it just EQ'd a lot of EQ, and guys, a lot of EQs means like a lot of EQs. So that things that I put here on it is just like specifically for that bass, you know. It's not like very crucial EQs, as you see. It's nothing, you know. with just a little bit more color. Okay, we're missing a little bit of 110 and stuff like that. That that is the ready kick bass. Okay, and if we're gonna play it. On the bass, I did the linear cutting, the linear phase, okay, and I cut it in around, and I cut it around 25 because when you have a 40 hertz, it's a E. You don't want to touch the 35, 30 because over there is the warm, okay.
Okay.
So you try to cut it on the 25.
Great, Brendan. So you tend to high pass on a 48 dB cut. Or like around 30, 25, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it depends on the note. I said that in the start. It depends on the note.
Yeah.
Depends on the note.
Yeah.
If your note is lower, then your cuts have to be lower.
Yeah.
If your note is higher, you can get even to 35. For example, 50, then you can get to 35 to cut. You don't need that 35 hertz, you know? Actually, it's better you're going to cut into 35 because, as we talked about it before, we have 50, 100, 200 in frequencies and also the frequencies for the 25. You know, in the frequencies of the 25 is a boost. It's like taking all the RMS from the track and it's really, really stuck in the speakers. You're not going to able to push the volume in the track because the RMS will be all filled with very low frequencies. So you have to cut it in 35. So you're going to pass all over the 25 completely.
Okay.
But in this case, we have 40 hertz.
I've just noticed that you actually have a bass note on the kick. Is that usual?
You're right about it, yeah. You're right about it. It sounds better like that. But there is also a LFO chain. Specifically, it sounds better here. I don't know why. I just like, it sounds better, you know? Like, probably with the volume is not so high on the first one. But it actually sounds good, you know? It sounds more attached, sound more warm. So maybe it gives a little bit of frequency to the kick in a way, you know? But I usually don't do that. Specifically here it works.
Can you walk us through the processing chain on that bass? I know everyone would love to see that.
Well, usually when I'm having a bass, you know, I'm trying to, before, this one is already chained in a way, so it's just like another chain, you know, because the original bass of the track was giving a feeling of, you know, that the first velocity was a little bit down. Sometimes you want that velocity really up, especially in Psy. When I'm working with Joe, for example, you don't do so much first note going down. You want it to run like a machine, you know. But in this track, which is like more like that, I found it. This is the second time that I put in the LFO. So the first time will probably look like that, for example. The first time will look probably like that. Okay?
Right.
A little bit less in the end, you know, to not have a click. And this is about the height, around here. Okay? But it all depends how you get it from, you know? How's the sample, what's the... But you want that in a way. You want that in a way, you know? You want that here in a way, you know? So you have a little bit of down here. In this style of... But it all depends on how you... There's no rules. You know what I mean? There's no rules. I don't want rules, you know, in a way. So how it sounds better, it sounds better. So this is how I do it. I don't work with a side chain. I work with the LFO tool. I found it much more accurate.
Okay.
You know? I don't know why. I work with sidechain all my life, but LFO tool, I work with, what's his name, this guy, Yaniv for Black and White. We did the Black 7, and then I met the LFO tool. It was like 4 years ago. And then I said, okay, that's a very nice solution. I'm all about shortcuts. I'm really all about shortcuts in my life, and this is one of the shortcuts, I think.
Okay.
Okay, well, what we have here is a Loy also.
Okay.
Is an equalizer that I found sometimes, you know, very soft in a way, very good for coloring, for painting your bass in a way, you know. So I use it a lot to paint the bass.
Is it what? So it's good for boosting?
No, it's not good for. As you see, the points are really really large, you know, with the
Right.
Q. It's not good to do something like like that, for example, like that in this
Yeah.
EQ. For this, you have the isotope EQ, for example. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more like this is more for coloring. This is more for
Okay.
color because this
Tonal.
bass is already ready. And what I advise you guys there's some frequencies that was missing here, and you're sitting here and you're trying to find the frequencies that you can add the bass on that bass and that will sound complete. That will sound in all the frequencies will sound great. You know.
So you're boosting with the funk.
Check the analyzer, okay? Now you can see the 40 hertz is huge. Okay, 40 hertz. It's very clear, very huge, but the 25 is very really down. Really, really cut it. Okay? And you have frequencies all over the 100 in here. This is like a block of frequencies, really low, big bass here. And then you have this gap here. And that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to see when I'm having a kick bass, which is fat,
Gap around 300, was it?
Was about usually everybody knows that around 200 is the place that the trouble starts, in the kick bass communication over there. So
Okay.
250, 300, and 350 is a place that I think that you need to have a small gap in a way.
Okay.
Not all the kicks are doing this, but yesterday I saw a mix of a friend of mine, and it was without that, It sounds great also, but I feel like for the mix, for the size of the mix, I think this is the place that the track will go outside. You can push the tracks and it sound in the face, because these frequencies are what I call in the face. Okay, once you usually every starting missing that frequencies.
Which frequencies
So
are you talking about?
when you take in same frequencies that I pushed here, you see,
Okay.
they weren't in the original track. I remind you, this track was already finished, right?
Yeah.
And then I took it and I changed the kick bass to re-release it in Seven Monkeys album. So when I changed the kick bass, I found out that hey, I can push more the low mids. You see, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot for the whole of the track. 1 dB in 345 hertz, and half a dB in 455. And look what happened here. There's an adjustment here that the high frequencies went down. Okay, so in order to make the mix much better, that's what I need. That's what I needed to do, and that's the frequencies that I'm missing, because the kick over there was blocking the 350 and the 400, and didn't let the track go out. Now when the track is going out here, and the kick bass is much wide and have this hole here, it sounds much bigger. Simple as that. Simple as that. So that's, in a way, something that I'm trying to do.
Okay. So I've got a couple questions. One thing is, do you, in terms of the level of the kick and bass, like against each other, do you have a starting point with that? Do you try to get them 1 decibel, quieter bass, or do you try and keep them the same level or anything like that?
Okay, what you're talking about now is something which is one of the keys for mixing a kick bass, okay? It's one of the most important things, by the way, okay? Because this kick bass is going like that, okay? But I can actually push another half a dB up, and it will sound great also. It will sound great also. I can also push down a little bit, and it will sound good also. It's all a matter of what you want. I can tell you that the difference outside will be huge. Half a dB on the bass up, or half a dB on the bass down. It will be huge. Like the volume is the most important thing between the kick and the bass. okay? It's not like just like going, guys, I know you're watching now. I don't know how many you are there, 10 people. A lot of people will watch this, but it's not stupid what I'm telling you now. Sometimes when you're doing something like that and you went down 30 cents, it's a huge difference outside on the kick bass. Huge. Okay? You can't even imagine, you know, because when you're working really sharp on the kick bass, 30 cents is 30 cents of I mean like 0.3 dB. It's a lot. Okay? And it will make a difference. Really. So I'm not joking here, you know. It's like sounds funny, but it's not, you know. When you're sitting on kick bass, try to get to the situation that you actually don't know to decide between minus 4.1 to minus 4.2. When you get to that situation and you're saying, oh, okay, I don't know, so I'm going to put minus 4.15. This is the situation that the kick bass is good. Okay?
Okay.
This is the way it's supposed to be. So the volume of between the kick and the bass is the most important thing. Okay?
And how do you, if you don't know how to get it even near?
Yeah. What are you used to get
What
to
make
that
me
state?
think? What? Well,
is it 1 decibel?
I guess it's a matter of how do you know your studio, first of all.
Okay.
If you did a track before that sounds really good and you're happy from it, and you're trying and you know exactly how it's supposed to sound, it's easier. If not, then I will use a reference.
Okay.
I will take a kick bass that I really like, and I try to find out what's the kick bass relationship over there. Okay, it sounds like the kick of this track of the reference is a little bit higher, and mine is a little bit lower, so the kick in mine need to go up. What I tell you here for sure is, if you're not certain if the kick is high enough, better to put the kick a little bit higher. Because most of the problem of the mastering, for example, is that the kick is not high enough, okay? So it's always in favor of the kick, not the bass. When you started to do music, when I started to do music, the bass was very important for me. But in mastering wise and outside how it's gonna sound, the kick is more important, okay? If you don't have a kick in the track, then your track will probably not gonna be good outside, you know? Half a dB sometime on the kick sounds a big difference if, you know, outside. While on the bass, it sounds less difference. So first of all, the kick is more important in the volume. Make sure that the kick is high enough in the track, you know?
Do you, like, in the tracks that people send to you, is there any common mistakes that you see? Do people always tend to have, like, the bass too quiet?
Yeah,
or
yeah. The common mistake is that always the kick was lower.
the kick was too quiet?
Yeah. And that's because people usually boosting the kick around, I show you. Usually people are very concerned about this range of frequencies around 50 hertz, okay? So what they're doing, they're boosting here a lot. And they keep forgetting that there is lots of frequencies here that's supposed to be out, especially in progressive music, okay? Around the 200, around the 100, you know? And usually people boosting here, which is really bad for a kick, and it sounds like 165. Most of the mistakes are like this, okay? And usually people have a big sub, really dirty sub, okay? So once you clean the sub good with the linear phase EQ, and then you to make sure that the kick have enough frequencies around here, you know, make sure that you also have the frequencies around here, okay? Because the bass depends on the note, of course, doesn't give you all the time all the frequencies, okay? So of course it doesn't give you all the time the frequencies, okay? So if you're using an E bass, then you're missing probably then the 40, 80, 160, then the 200 doesn't touch, and you need that 200 from the kick. But if you do that 200 on the kick in a A, for example, you're gonna boost completely, and all the track will sound really bad, because it's gonna be from the bass and from the kick on 200. Then it will sound shit. So in a way, it all depends in the kick bass. But most of the time, the problem is that the kick have boosting in some frequencies and in other frequencies not. And when you straighten the frequencies, you find out that the kick is very low.
Right. Okay. Are there any I know, for instance, that a lot of people will be wondering, how do you get that hum and the attack in your bass, because I'm sure a lot of people at home are thinking like, that's all really cool, but how do I get the bass to like really hum? I think in all the like, especially Israeli psytrance, there's that hum. Like you hear an asterisk X noise, that hum that hits you right in the chest, really, really nice. Do you tend to Is there boosting going on? Do you use like the waves, R bass, anything like that, or is it all in the synth creation?
Well, there's no a special plug that you use. I
Yeah.
think it's all about EQing
Okay.
and
Trying to cut or boost.
the way you cut it from the synthesizer, by the way. And oh, there is a group here that I didn't see. Oh, look at this. So the kick bass usually goes to a group in my tracks.
Okay.
So about your question, before we're gonna go to that group, look, it's supposed to start already from the synthesizers, okay? The attack on the synthesizer, make sure that the attack button is really down to 0. You have a good attack. And then when you're cutting when you're taking down the sample, you need to cut it right sometimes in audio. Sometimes the difference between what they're saying and what you want to do is, if I'm gonna cut the bass here, or I'm gonna cut the bass here, or I'm gonna cut the bass here. That's all the difference that you are asking me now, really. And we're talking about 1 millisecond, right? But it all depends what you need to play with it a lot of time. You need to see where you need to cut the start of the bass, how it's gonna sound. Maybe you like a click, and then it's a little bit delayed. Then you have to do a little bit of go down here, back a little bit, okay? Because if you cut it here, you're losing the click, So the way to handle this is to go down a little bit here, and then the click will stand here, but the bass actually will start here, So this is another thing that you can use, but it's all about tuning it in the synthesizer, of course. Equalizing is equalizing, you're putting your color on the bass, you're doing what you need to do. Sometimes you don't do something, so you find out the points that you really want to take it out, you find out the points that you really want to take it out, and it doesn't sound bad. Sounds good with the frequency of the bass and everything. And if your frequency and if the tune is sound really really accurate, then everything is good.
Okay. I've got another question. If I was to ask to say like I want more click on my bass. Like I know that people are do you actually layer a click from another synth or something?
Yeah. You can use the same.
Some of the basses I hear, again, like like Outsiders, Ace Ventura. There's so much click on the bass. How?
I think most of the people, sometimes me also, I'm taking another bass, it's just like thinking that okay, so I bring another bass, and then I'm completely cutting everything, not here, of course. This is not EQ to work with, but cutting it really good and just leaving the frequencies that I want from a different bass, and then actually doing it really 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 tight, or with audio handling, like cutting and then fading it.
Can you show us?
Doing with like simple as that, man. Simple as that. You're going inside and you're doing a very strong click in a way, short enough. People use that a lot. You don't need that one anymore because you don't need the click on here. That will be high frequencies. You're doing the sidechain the same as you did on your bass, so it will sound same, and it will give you a little bit of click on the top. This file here that you did with a different bass, we're imagining this one is a different bass, yeah?
Yeah.
Could be also a stereo one, Could be also mono, could be also stereo one.
Okay.
So, and that will give a stereo one will be a very nice thing, for example.
Yeah.
It will help your kick bass to grow a little bit in a way. Of course, if you're gonna play it in a mono system, you're not gonna hear this thing, but it's a very nice adding for the track in a way. So sometimes you hear this layer, you know. Some people do it from the same bass also. I met people that did it from the same bass. There's a risk in that, in a way, that you can phase because you're using EQ and but if you're doing it gently, you can do that also from the same bass, you know. But make sure that you're not canceling frequencies from the original bass. The way you do it is you push it up in volume very high, and you see that you're actually adding, not taking down. If the volume of the kick bass stay the same when you push high or go down, then you probably did a mistake. But if your volume is going up when you're pushing up, then everything's cool. So you layer it, okay. It's about layering again. Another thing is, of course, to put it on the spot, right on the spot, man. Because sometimes when it moves a little bit, then all the bass will get a coarse in a way or sound different, not sound accurate. So it have to be very, very on the spot. People who use Logic suffer from these things, I guess.
Okay.
That's the logic. But laughing on Logic about audio, the best samples I got in my life of bass was from Logic. Okay, so they have the best warm bass in ESM, ES2, anywhere. So this sample is from ES2, ES2. And it's the sample of Back Underground, Mind Games, really huge bass. I use it in E, I use it in D, I use it in D diez, I use it in, that's about it. All these 3 notes. It sounds great.
For the people at home who don't have access to these kinds of basses, how do they get them? Like, do you know anyone who can like share some of these bass kits or?
Well,
because
guys, I'm not working on Logic, okay? But I have Logic. Okay? Each one of you guys need to have a Logic if you're working on Cubase in order to do the minimum things that you need to do. And that 2 minimum things is sometimes to get a synthesizer, a bass. You need to know to do that. And to how to push with the AD limiter, for example, in Logic. Because pushing in Cubase is shit. Sorry, guys. It's not a good way. It's not a good way to end your track. Okay?
Okay.
That's in a different kind of note. We're not talking about, but we're not talking anymore about the kick bass. I think we talk about a lot. Just before, let's see what happened in that group. Usually, the kick bass in my tracks are going to individual group channels. One is bass, one is kick, and then together they are going to kick bass. Okay, and that gives you more control. You always want to have the kick bass in a group. Okay, if it's just one element of kick, without the end that we saw before, and just one element of bass like here, then you don't need, of course, a group of bass and a group of kick. But in that layering over there, in that track that we saw before, there was a group of bass and a group of kick. Okay, and then from that group, there is a group of kick bass together. Make you more organized so you can take all your layers of the bass up and down. You know, more control in the mix. Now, the kick bass here goes to a group. That's the most important thing. And the group here will have to have a color together. I believe in that. You know, when you put a plug on the kick bass together, it sounds better. You can always find a place. Yeah, you can always find a place that you can push the kick bass together after you did the perfect bass, the perfect kick. You can always do a perfect EQ on the kick bass together.
Can you show us are you compressing or limiting the kick and bass group?
Well, look what happened in this kick bass, okay? After I thought I made the best kick bass, and then I found out that in 150 I was missing 1.8 dB, and that's a lot, okay? So sometimes, you know, and here some colors out in 2500 and 170, and I use this plug a lot because it's an N series of URS. I use it a lot for, again, painting in the color in 3.2, and I use this fattener sometime. to give a little bit of warm. I think it works great. And I'm using the isotope EQ sometimes a lot also, because the isotope EQ have a very nice color also. So all these things and the BLT, a little bit of bass on the BLT, you know, and the high kick bass have a high treble here. You see, just to make the click that you were looking before a little bit more shiny, you know, so you can hear the click.
EQ.
What's that?
It's all your processing is just EQ.
Yeah, it's all EQ.
Okay.
You don't see any compressor here, right?
Right.
It's all EQ. Really, there's all EQ. I believe you can fix everything with the EQ. Once you're putting a compressor is because of trouble. And when as a compensation, I will compensate with the EQ after that. There's no compression with no compensation after that. There's no way you can put the compression and say, oh, it sounds great, thank you. No, there's no miracle in compression. Compression is good, but then it takes the sub down, you know, and you hurt the sub. I didn't even in this unbelievable compressor, which is so gentle, you can still hear that the sub went down, you know.
Yeah.
And all the other compressors there is in your free plugins are. I didn't find a good compressor, by the way.
Can you walk us
Maybe in the UAD.
the kind of
can you-
attack and release settings? Because I know
Yeah.
the students really want to see the attack and release, the ratio, the threshold.
Well, you have two ways, right, to compress. You know, you have two ways to compress. It depends what you compress, of course. By the books, you're supposed to, if you have a bass, you're supposed to give the release a little bit lower, right? So, by the books, you know, but I compress in two basic ways, you know. Either it's closed like that, or either it's open like that. That way, when the attack is open until the end and the release is down, you will get a strong attack.
Can we hear
okay?
it?
You will get a very strong attack. And in that way, it's more fit for when you're compressing a track, like in mastering, you know? Because you don't want to have this this symptom that track get in and then you hear like a small squeeze in the start and then the track go up. A mastering mistake that a lot of people do, or people putting compressor on the. So it's more about to learn about compression. You better start with the lead, not with the bass, because in the bass is so gentle compressing that again, I try not to use it, a compressor on the bass, and try to EQ it right. When everything EQ it right, then everything sounds great, you know? Everything sounds great.
Could you bring in like a raw bass note and show us the kind of processing you might do?
All right.
Because I'm still a little bit confused as to the way you'd set up the compressor.
Alright. As you see, I have a lot of bass samples that I did for my track. So, subs. Let's take this one. It's gonna be a nice because I want to try this bass here. So it's a nice sample of a bass. I think it was in 136. So what we're doing here is running bass. We're doing a running bass, right? And if we're doing a running bass, that's what I need to do. Immediately I take this down. I don't need this thing. Just use these two parts. Then I put it in the BPM. And let's say, for example, we're doing something like that. And I'm taking the I'm doing a loop here. So it's a bit long, of course. I'm gonna cut it, do a small fade in the end. Okay, now, first of all, it's a little bit low, everything together. And what I was trying to do here is so I took, actually what I did here is I took a E, which is also the same note of here, okay? But it's a different track, okay? That have a different kick. And let's try to put this bass in our track, for example, okay? Or try to see what's missing, okay? There's lots of mid in that track, in that bass. Lots of mid. What's missing is actually a bass, okay? And the first thing I'm opening is, first of all, is FOB filter. So the most important thing is to try to see where the bass is missing. I don't know about you guys, but usually the first point that I put in the EQ is the right point. Okay? I don't know. Usually, I don't know why, because if you know the EQ and you know the room and you know what you need, then your hand will go right to the right place. So this is around the place that we need the bass. Without it, it sounds really shit.
Around 100.
I don't know if you hear it. Now, this is very, very general, of course. Now you need to start to check more into the bottom of it, you know? It's very general, you know? But let's see. Let's see what's going on. High frequencies I don't need, everything sounds great. Sub is great, but it's too wide, okay. Now I'm gonna do that one. Okay. That sounds great also. Now if you have a different track to compare, it's even better, right? Okay. Now you asked me about compressing, right? If you were opening a compressor here, then probably you will compress. You take the threshold to 1.5, which is the minimum.
Okay.
And look what happened. Look what happened when you point -4 in the threshold. Just -4. It starts to move here. And that shows it's compressed. Here you lost subs already, okay? There's no question about it, okay?
How much gain reduction are you getting there?
What's that?
How many decibels of gain reduction are you getting at the moment?
In the channel, how many dBs?
On that compressor, how many decibels of gain reduction are you
Well,
losing subs?
Well, I don't know, man, but you're losing in a way as subs, you know? I tested a lot of times, you know? The way to do it is actually, okay, you did the work with the compressor, it sounds great. Wow, it sounds great with the compressor, right? So, for me, it sounds great here. Yeah, it's making it straight. It sounds really good. Yeah, okay. Now I'm gonna do this, if we had time, and not just stick to Cubase, I will show you how I test it, and I see that you lost bass, okay?
Okay.
In a way, what I would do, and I did it before, I was gonna export. I'm gonna do a bar, let's say. I'm gonna export it. Kick and bass together, of course, not bass alone. Kick and bass together, it sounds great, okay, with the compressor. And then I will bypass it and do again a mix down, okay? Then I will take it to a program which is not Cubase, let's say SoundForge, and I'm gonna check the average RMS. Not the moment RMS. Usually people check this RMS over here. No, this is a point RMS. Okay, that's why it's moving all the time. I'm talking about a score of the RMS in average, and that will give you a number. Let's say -8, -9. Okay. I will try to make the same RMS with that together, just with volume. Okay, you have this kick bass together, and the RMS was -9, and with the compressor, -9.8, for example. And then I do the same -9 for both of them with the volume and the channel, and bring it back to Cubase, put 2 empty channels, and try. And then listen to it. What I will listen to, what the result will be. The result will be that the one with the compressor will sounds much more running, but the one with without the compressor will sound more fat. Okay, did that, done that, checked, for sure. Okay, so what you need to do is to compensate with the EQ. Okay, so when you put in a compressor, always try to be as much gentle as you can, not crashing it completely, because you're more crashing it, more threshold, more ratio, like for example like that, you're losing a lot of bass. Okay?
So then you add it back afterwards?
And then you need to add it back. And the more you need to add after that is the less good, because you need to add just a little bit. The compressor is giving you a very good movement, taking the mids out, the attack out. Sounds great, really. I wish you could hear it. It will sound even better here. But here I can feel that I lost the bass. So I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna be very gentle. Make sure that the compressor will not move so much. Once it starts to move on the kick, and I'm talking about the kick bass, guys, I'm talking about kick bass, okay? I'm not talking about leads. On leads it's something else.
Yeah.
That's why I said in the start that maybe we need to start the compressor lesson on leads, not on bass.
Okay.
Okay, because this is advanced compressoring. So in a way, you need to see a very, very, very small movement here. And then you know that you start to lose a bass, and there, this is the way, the maximum you can put the compressor on. Okay, so actually
We've got some questions that we'd like to go through. Do you use UAD compressors?
Use what? UAD?
Yeah.
No, I didn't bought that.
Okay.
I didn't bought that, and I think they're doing the same in. I think URS compressor are the same level.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's the same
So,
level.
so
I think,
Gordon's saying, when you have a good layered bass, do you bounce as a whole or do you bounce as a single track?
Again?
Yeah, I don't actually quite understand
No,
the
I'm
question
not too sure on
myself.
that one, Gordon.
When you again? Let me try to
No,
understand him.
I don't understand the question myself, actually. Sorry. Sorry, Gordon.
Can you say it again, Gordon?
That'd be cool.
About what?
Okay, I'm just looking through the other questions too.
There was another question that we had that was going back to the kicks briefly. So when you're looking at boosting the frequencies, you're just boosting exactly the frequencies that you want, right?
Yes, you just don't boost the frequencies like that. You know, you need to feel that all the kick and bass are filling together the frequencies range, and the in a way it's the way you hear in the studio. You know, some people hearing boosting in some frequencies in the studio because the studio is not built right or something like that. My studio is not the best, but I learn when the door is a little bit like moving. You know, I know that I have enough bass. If the door doesn't move, you know, so that's what you need to know about your studio. You know, you need to know every fucking thing about your studio. If you're hearing something move and it didn't move before in a different track, something happened in that track. You know,
Yeah.
because you didn't move that thing that moved. It moved by himself because of bass. So there is probably a boost in somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
so you need to be aware. The most important thing is to be aware, and the second most important thing is to have the note fixed on the note. Guys, it's the most problem thing that all the starting producer have. When they saying it's a D track, it's a D plus 25. And 25 cents, it's a lot. Sometimes you have, when you're pushing everything on the right frequency, on the right note, the right frequencies goes out. Remember that. And if you're not hearing that 25%, 25 cents up and down, then use any tools you can have. You know, use any tool. It starts from even a tuner. You know, I don't know, a tuner. I don't know work, but E. You see, pointing E. If it was not pointing E, then I say, oh, well, you have a problem here. You know. So it starts from checking yourself. And sound is all about checking, guys. This is a lesson of sound. And sound is all about checking yourself. What I said now was not something that I don't do, something that I do all the time. I'm bouncing the kick bass, I'm putting and checking the average RMS, and I'm doing a different thing without the compressor now, and I'm gonna check again. It's just not like bypass, not bypass, bypass, not bypass. No, that's not gonna work, guys. Bypass, not working on comparing. Sound is all about comparing, and when you're comparing the RMS. You're not comparing the volume, okay? You're comparing the RMS. So, I'm sorry, it will take you another export, and then you need to have a different project, clean project, and comparing between them and doing like that, between the samples. Okay. Okay, what I'm missing here, you know? And where is more bass? This is the way to work on the kick bass, and it takes time. I know, lots of efforts. As much as you're more dedicated to work very, very, very tight on all the small things, you will get a better kick bass.
So
And,
the last point on kick and bass, would you then recommend referencing to professional tracks?
I reference my own track to my own tracks. You know, I know that, for example, in this track, wow, I have this great bass, but when you're doing a reference, you have to do for the same note. You know, it's not so, you know, if you're doing a kick bass reference, you have to be the same note, okay? Don't fool yourself and try to do a kick bass in D when your reference is in E. Come on. You know,
That's a good tip.
so So you have to reference with the same bass note, of course, and you. There is some big kick basses around outside in the. Everybody knows, you know. I want to teach you some tricks about the height on the kick. The height and the kick make a big difference sometimes, guys. Can change actually a lot of things, you know. The height on the kick is very important. People tend not to put it sometimes, or just like to put height on the kick. The height on the kick have to be like very tight if you want power in your track. Okay. The way I use it is also I use in a height in 10,000 hertz and then 12,000 hertz. I mean, like, not that just like I'm cutting and just leaving the 10,000 hertz, of course, you know. I'm just like forget about all these things, which is my speaking. Let me be quiet, and you see the frequencies here, which is only 12,000 nearly. And the other is more like, in a way, here on 10,000. So, and then I pan it a little bit. I take this one on the right and this one on the left a little bit, okay? And that actually makes some kind of stereo on the kick bass. People don't understand why I get the big kick bass sometimes. Sometimes it comes, the high frequency is a little bit spread, but you don't hear it so much, but it's there, okay? And this is about the height on the kick. So you spread it a little bit, you take all the range of the frequencies and the high frequencies that you want, which is 10 and 12,000. 12,000 give a very shiny kind of like frequencies when you're doing sound. It's really important.